Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to look at another video regarding affordability. Just a quick reaction, but before we get into it, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. That's how you help the channel grow. We'll really appreciate it. And also, if you're looking to buy a house in DC or Maryland, my information will be in the description down below. But without further ado, let's hear what this lady has to say.
Buying a home as a single parent is a bad idea. I'm a single parent who bought a home and I am thousands of dollars in debt. I thought that buying a home would be the best thing.
So, buying a home as a single parent is a bad idea. I wouldn't necessarily agree to that statement in totality, but there is some truth there. I don't think it has to do with parental status. Let's say if you're a single parent making a lot of money with a really decent job, then it can work. But if you're single, it just depends on finances. That's my take on it. I don't necessarily believe, because I know when you say single parents, most people think about divorces or separations, but let's say somebody passes away, right? And you end up being single and you have a child, would you not buy a house if you can afford it? So really, it's not about your marital or parental status that dictates whether buying a house is a good decision. I think what ultimately dictates that is your ability to afford the house. If you are just barely getting by, then having a child on top of it makes things harder. Anyway, let's keep going.
Buying my daughter and I didn't take into consideration property taxes. My mortgage went from $1,400 to $1,900 in 2 years. I'm in debt because I had 3 water leaks.
Yeah, wow. That's the common theme in these reaction videos I'm seeing, is the property tax thing that people don't consider. That happened to me as well. Thankfully, my property taxes went up a few $100s in 4 years. But I have seen, as far as my monthly payment, but I have seen an increase in payment. And yes, the first year I was caught off guard. Didn't quite understand the concept. You know, you go through everything with the lender. So here's an advice to buyers. Have your lender or your agent explain it to you. They may not be able to predict how high your property taxes are going to increase. That has a lot of variables, right, to consider. We're thinking about developments in the area. We're thinking about just property value in the neighborhood. If the property value in the neighborhood, let's say, goes up, a lot of houses appreciate in value based on sales, then that is definitely going to dictate your property taxes. Another thing sometimes are the insurance costs, right? So we look at natural disasters. For some reason, when there are a lot of disasters in an area like flooding, hurricanes, or wildfires, and if they're repetitive, then it can increase insurance, right? And that is something that I was caught off guard with when I bought my house the first year. I just honestly didn't get a clear explanation. At the time, I wasn't a realtor. I was like, okay, this is my mortgage, and the following year, my mortgage went up. But at that time, I had kind of gotten into real estate now, so I was like, okay, that explains that. But I wasn't anticipating it until it hit. I was just like, what changed, you know? And a lot of people run into that.
Not only did I have to pay the rise in property taxes, but I had to pay for the maintenance in my home. I definitely believe that home ownership requires 2 incomes.
Yeah, so that's another thing a lot of home buyers don't get. The question always comes up as far as in value. Should you rent or should you buy? And the biggest difference for me, I would say two major differences. One would be equity. When you buy, you're building equity or you're building wealth. You're saving money in essence. If you have to sell it, if you get old and you don't have a good retirement, you can do a reverse mortgage. You can sell the house, downsize. So you're building an asset. But on the flip side to that, the cost of owning a home is exponential when you think about considered to rent. And if you're paying a rent at a place where all utilities are included, the rent may be higher, but you pay your rent. You don't have to worry about cutting the grass. You don't have to worry about plumbing leak. You just call maintenance. Call maintenance. Power goes out, call the maintenance. You know, obviously maybe change your light bulbs, but something electrical goes wrong, call the maintenance. Appliances go bad, call maintenance. That goes out the window when you're a homeowner. She's talking about water leaks. That is all on you. Just showed the house today. We saw a lot of drywall cut up that we weren't expecting, but now you're wondering, is this an electrical problem? Is this a plumbing issue? So, in essence, you're the repair person. And those maintenance issues are things to keep in mind. So, for instance, the showing I did today, that may be somebody trying to sell a house just because of all these issues they ran into. You can see they fixed some stuff, but maybe they ran out of cash. I don't know the full detail, but things like that you got to keep in mind. Lawn work. You know, unless you're renting a house where you are in charge or per the lease, you have to take care of the lawn. Most people rent apartments. So when you rent an apartment, you ain't got to worry about the lawn being done. Wintertime, the snow plow, that's all on you, all right? Driving by, it was almost 100 degrees today going to the showing, and you see an old lady mowing her lawn, and you just say, wow, you know, that is, maybe she likes to exercise, but whatever the case may be, if you're renting, you ain't got to worry about that.
All of the things that I could do before I bought the home, all of the things I could provide to my daughter before I bought my home, I can no longer do. I am what they call house poor.
Once again, I have to disagree with that. Home ownership doesn't require two incomes. It requires a big income. Or if you need two to get that amount, good. It's always, in this society now, I'm not going to get into divorce rates and all of that. But back in the day, when you think about things, when things were affordable, there was only one breadwinner, right? Before most women went into the workforce, and they even had a better life. The American dream was alive. The white picket fence, you know, it's just the cost of living went up, and the income hasn't really matched it, because back then one person can go work at a plant somewhere and can afford a nice middle class family. So I do get her point. I'm not completely disagreeing with her that two is always better than one. You know, not to get religious on you, but the Bible talks about when it's cold, one can keep the other warm, you know, or if something happens to one, the other can step up. So I get the concept. And even when you think about wealth, people think for the most part, by myself is always good, but stats show that married couples end up making more money in the long term, just because of even tax breaks, right? And all of those things. You're taxed a little differently than a single person. So she's not totally wrong. If you can get a partner, fine. But what if your partner, like I said, passes away, but you're a doctor or a lawyer? You can still afford it. It's not really one income is bad. Don't buy a house. That's like a generalization. I think the amount of money you make is going to dictate whether or not you can buy a house and the quality of house you can buy.
If you are a single parent looking to buy a home, I hope you have thousands of dollars.
All right, well, what I'll do is I'll leave a link to the description down below. She goes on for a little bit more. I guess I can read a couple of these comments. It says being a homeowner is very glamorized. It's hard. This is from Chef Vic. There's a lot of unexpected expenses. People never talk about that part. That I agree with, the unexpected expenses. And then another comment right here says, owning a home on a single income is really hard. These days, it really is. It depends on the income, though. I'm going to stick with that. There is so much more to owning a home than paying the mortgage. Absolutely. We talked about that already, repairs and things of that nature. But let's just say I know people who individually make more money than the average married family, the average family. You know, we're talking mother, father, and sometimes teenage kids that make money, and they all file taxes jointly as a family. There are people who make more money than that family. So the average income, household income in America ranges between 70 to 100 and something thousand based on where you live. But we know there are people who make way more money than that individually, right? So that disproves the argument of one income is not good enough. One person can make more than an entire family. They can afford a house and comfortably. So once again, I don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly, but she does make some valid points here. All I'll say for home buyers is watch for your expenses. Just get a real good lender or financial advisor to tell you, and a realtor, a good realtor, to just prepare you for home ownership. Increase in taxes, increases in HOA fees, also added costs that come with owning a home over time, unexpected repairs. You really need what I really recommend is to do a buyer's consultation with a realtor and let them just prepare you for the process. Because just jumping into it, oh, I got more money on a raise or a new job, let me buy a house. Don't just go into it all willy-nilly. There's a lot to it. Anyway, let's wrap this up. We've gone a little too long. And thanks for watching.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
I just backed out of an offer I made on a house, and I gotta tell you, it was a f***ing roller coaster.
Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel, and my name is Raymond. I'm a realtor in the state of Maryland and DC. Today we're going to react to a home buyer nightmare story. And once again, if you're looking to purchase a home in Maryland or the District of Columbia, you can just go to my website, click on the link on the calendar to book a 15-minute free consultation. Without further ado, let's jump right in.
I just backed out of an offer I made on a house, and I gotta tell you, it was a f***ing roller coaster. I recently made a video where I got an offer accepted on a house that used to be a rental. Well, the house was currently occupied by the tenant, and the sellers let us know that there was a clause in the lease that said the tenant had to move out 30 days after an offer was accepted on the house.
Well, unless you really like a house, I never recommend that. I saw a listing that, I talked to the person and pretty much they have a tenant in the house. That makes things very hard to sell because sometimes you gotta honor the tenant. And also when you're trying to sell in most states, you have to give that current person living there first dibs. Also, we already know about the squatter situation or just getting people out of your house. You can say move in 30 days. That's a clause. Yes, technically it's a law they have to follow, but is it fair? Is it a fair law? Is that a voidable contract when you think about it? I'm not a lawyer, consult with a real estate lawyer, but you're living in your house, you're not planning on moving, and then all of a sudden the seller tells you, sold my house, you got to move in 30 days. What if I can't find a place to move in 30 days and I've been paying my rent? It just is I just don't like that. There's too many sticking points. I would always recommend talk to a real estate lawyer, but I don't recommend these purchase a house and then somebody moves out kind of thing, you know, unless you're going to assume that tenant's lease. It's, you know, well, purchase a house and a tenant moves out, not somebody. Owners are always in the house most of the time and they can move out. But a tenant, somebody separate who has nothing invested in that transaction going through, they can stall it, they can do whatever to make it not work out. Especially if they were doing a rent to own, but time came for them to own and they are not in a position to purchase it. All those kind of sticking points. Anyway, let's keep going.
Great, fine, I can handle that. I didn't think much of it because I own rental properties and the tenant just must have been on a month-to-month lease, at least I thought. I just wouldn't close until I had confirmation that the tenant was moved out. I got to protect myself. And so after a few days...
So that's very smart on his part, but how did you do that? Did you not close, stating you're not going to, you know, did you write that up in your contract? You have to do that, right? From what it sounds like. Once again, that's why I say talk to a real estate lawyer, because they can technically, you're under contract, you should close. They've already given you their contingency of a tenant being there. You also probably negotiated your stance, right? But that was smart for him to say, I'm not going to close. But if you just are on the regular contract and you sign that you're going to close and you got to worry about that person moving, that would be an issue. You might get stuck right there. But sounds like he protected himself. Let's keep going.
Days of trying to schedule a home inspection, I get a call and it turns out that the tenant is super PO'd. He's like, I don't like this. I need more time to look for a place to live based on my history, based on my background. I need more time. And I'm like, what is this all about? So I'm doing my due diligence and I ask for a copy of the lease agreement just so that I understand everything that's going on. And it turns out that the conditions of the lease were misrepresented to me. Incredible. There you
go. So the tenant may not have been told that, or they may not have known that, but you hear the tenant talking about they can't get a place to live based on their background. So it seems like maybe the landlord was nice to get them a place, even though they had a criminal background. God knows what was on the criminal background, you know, because he's saying they can't get a place instantly. A lot of felons and stuff like that get a lot of stuff on their background where they can't live in certain neighborhoods. People turn them down all the time. Credit and also a criminal record. But now he's saying that the lease terms were misrepresented to him. When somebody misrepresents something to you, technically, I guess, once again, talk to a lawyer, but you might be able to get out of that, you know?
a termination clause, meaning that when a property sells, the tenant has to move out. But it wasn't 30 days after an offer was accepted. It was 30 days after the property sold. The plot thickens. So if I wanted to go...
So that makes sense from a seller's point of view. 30 days after the property closes. Because offers get accepted all the time that fall through, especially offers that are financed. Cash offers most likely are very quick. They go through title and that's about it. But as far as financing offers, when you're trying to finance a property, sometimes the lender may pre-approve you, but you may, when they start digging into your finances, you may not have everything required to qualify for the loan. Then you got to back out of the deal. Or you may want the house. When you do your home inspection, you see something that's a red flag and you back out of the deal. So there are so many reasons why contracts and offers can fall through. I've had that happen to me numerous times, and I just make it a point not to count any commission checks until closing date, because just because you had an offer accepted doesn't mean you're getting ready to close and you're getting ready to get paid. It's not happening all the time. So you can try your best to review the offer, put all types of clauses in there, but things happen. So right here, that was a bad misrepresentation on the seller's part, because now the offer closes. Once it closes, that seller, that's very tricky. Once the house closes, that seller really has nothing to do with the house anymore. It's no longer their house. They're not about to worry about that tenant and all of that. You know, it's on you, the buyer. So you got to really protect yourself and make sure you're covered in all areas. Let's listen to the rest of this.
Go forward with the purchase. It would be my responsibility to make sure that the tenant moved out on day 30. which it sounded like he didn't want to do because he was PO'd that he was being made to move. And he wasn't in a month-to-month lease. He was actually in the middle of a multi-year lease, which, given a legal perspective, means that I would have a really hard time evicting him if he chose not to move out. But wait, there's more. So you remember the tenant talking about his history, talking about why it was hard for him to find something? It turns out he is a disbarred lawyer. He was disbarred because he was stealing his client's settlement money in the excess of around $200,000 from what I understand. Oh, and also his wife just left him. He's got no job, no wife, trying to be evicted, and he's angry. Do you think?
Yeah, that sounds like a whole lot right there. But disbarred, once again, I kind of suspected that something criminal is there. I guess if you do have a job, it's unethical, it's criminal, but you can probably get a place to live as he did. The problem is he's not working and then going through a divorce and all of that. I'll say this much though, make sure you watch all the contingencies in the contract. And also this is for my I'll say real estate agents as well. Whenever you're in the process of negotiating an offer and one thing gets changed when the seller's agent sends it back to you, read everything over again because you never know what else got changed. Don't just let them replace one sheet of paper and you think you're under contract. Be very careful, go line by line. Because here's the thing. I know this much for real estate agents here in Maryland. If you get a client to come back and say, I didn't know what I signed, and you didn't necessarily explain things to them, you just sent it on DocuSign, you can be held liable for that as an agent. Because here's the thing, most of these electronic signature things, they go from one signing point to another to another. People don't necessarily get to read the whole thing. So as a best practice, rather than just hitting sign, ask for your agent to send you a PDF copy before you sign, or at least read it and have them explain it to you. Have them explain it to you so you know what you're signing. All right, as they say, the devil is in the detail. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. That's how you help the channel grow.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
I bought a house when I was 26 and fell immediately into poverty. Okay, when I lived with my parents, I was living my best luxury lifestyle. I went to South Korea, bought a 2000 plane ticket, didn't even blink twice. I went shopping, luxury goods, all that. Was traveling, was just, I was living it up. I felt rich. I had
a lot of personality here. Great storyteller, a lot of personality. Welcome again to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond. I'm a realtor in the state of Maryland and Washington, D.C. We're going to look into another reaction video here talking about being house poor. And let's jump right into it.
I bought a house when I was 26 and fell immediately into poverty. Okay, when I lived with my parents, I was living my best luxury lifestyle. I went to South Korea, bought a 2000 plane ticket, didn't even blink twice. I went shopping, luxury goods, all that. Was traveling, was just, I was living it up. I felt rich. I had
a lot of personality here. Great storyteller, a lot of personality. To each his own, move out of the parents' house and spend $2,000 on a plane ticket to South Korea. Everybody has different priorities. To some, that may not be what they think about as far as when you start making money, but to some, that's what they choose to do. Love the energy though.
No bills. And I had a full-time 9-to-5 job. I was working as a nurse. Okay, I was killing it. I bought my own house. That first mortgage payment came in and I was like, this is a situation. But at first you think you can handle it, right? Like, what's a couple thou? What's a couple thou? I got it. But then the pipes in my 80-year-old home.
So one thing I caught there, she said she felt rich. Being able to spend money can make you feel rich sometimes, but there's a difference between feeling like you're rich and actually being rich, right? And I think the cushion of that 6-month emergency fund that people should try to build is something, because she just talked about when she got her first mortgage, it was a shocker and she thought she can handle it. But let's dive in and see how this played out.
Broke immediately as soon as I bought the house. Wiped out my savings. Then another pipe in a different area of the house broke. Okay, I'm struggling. Okay, I need help. Then my neighbor's pipe, it was a twin house, her pipe broke.
80-year-old home. So here's the thing. Pipes going bad, wiping out savings. This is something. One thing you can do when you purchase a home is try to get a home warranty. She said immediately, so I'm assuming maybe the first year. You can get these home warranties for like less than $1,000, sometimes $1,000 or more, depending on the house, a year. And that's gonna cover the plumbing, electrical, HVAC for the most part. If you want additional, some of them cover appliances, they'll charge you for extra. That's just something to think about if you're jumping into buying an older home or just buying a home in general. It's always recommended to get home warranties. I, as an agent, sometimes buy it on behalf of my client. If I'm walking away with $12,000 in commission, $10,000, $7,000, however much, $20,000, I can spare $700-800 for like home warranty, just to give me a little peace of mind, also make the client appreciate the transaction. Sometimes I do it for the seller or the buyer. It really doesn't matter. If I get a buyer and I just want them to have at least peace of mind for a year, I'll pay for the home warranty. I've also done it for listings in particular, because we're selling some house just to get the buyer a little peace of mind as well. Like, hey, this house is going to be covered for a year. So something to think about there. But that's one thing I mentioned. They used to say have about $5,000 left over when you purchase a home. But some of these expenses in houses, that was back in the day. Some of these expenses now, $5,000 ain't even gonna shake it. If you think about an HVAC unit going bad, it can be up to 15 plus, roofs, plumbing, depending on where. If they got to tear down walls to get to that, can run you a pretty penny very quickly.
And she didn't believe that her pipe broke, but her pipe broke on my side of the house. So all of that water that was coming down was spraying into my home. And then my water heater broke. When I tell y'all, I went from living in the lap of luxury to destitute immediately. Now, don't get me to fooling y'all, because it was worth it in the long run, because that house is now worth like 2 times what it was worth then. So I'm actually doing pretty good. But at the time, when I tell you I was struggling, I had to go to my parents every other day for dinner because your girl could not feed herself. I bought a house when I was 20.
Yeah, that's unfortunate right there when you think about the neighbor's pipe going bad and having to deal with that. So for instance, you go get a plumber, they check it, then they find out it's not yours. I wonder what the liability there is. Can she get compensated? Something to think about. But this is why I always preach buy a house. And people always say, is it a good time to buy? Think about what she just said. The house is worth twice in the long term. Long-term game is the real estate game. You don't think about, it's unfortunate we live in this instant generation. People want it and they want it now. It's the microwave generation. Everything should be done immediately. But if you can be a little patient and build equity, and if let's say you fall in an area where there's development and the house value goes up, think about that, right? I know a gentleman who was so happy and eager to see me. He bought a house. He was trying to renovate it, like an older home as she talked about, and then pull the equity out and just get into the real estate business that way. Kind of ran short of cash. Talked to some grant programs. He was so eager last week when he saw me. He got $65,000 to finish up the renovation. So there are things, programs that you can, and that's a grant. It's not a loan. $65,000 to get an older home completely remodeled. He was already there, just needed a little bit more. The city just needed to see how much work he's done and how much is left to go. So there are different programs you can get into to just kind of get your home where it needs to be. And if it's an area that's developing, that's why the city was trying to put some money into that home. They're trying to boom that area. Gentrify, as some may see it, develop as others may see it. But he got fortunate. He bought a house there for very cheap, did a lot of work, took all the work to the county and the city, like, hey, I've done this much, can you help me finish it up? And they did. So I'll leave a link down to this video in the description below.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
The house is yours. So on Monday, we paid inspectors to come to this house to do like the usual sewage, drainage, the overall house inspection. I cannot emphasize this enough. You need to pay for your own inspections. Do not let the seller pay for your inspections or do the inspections on your behalf. Because oh my God, what we found. First off, we're in San Diego.
That you would think is a no-brainer, but a lot of people do that. So for instance, let's say a seller is selling a house, they already got it under contract before they got an inspection done, and they may have a copy of that inspection report. Or sometimes I advise sellers, if you're trying to sell a house, get a home inspection so you already know what's wrong with it. Some people would like to say, oh, I don't need to know. It depends. But what she's talking about is a seller having an inspection done already. Here's the thing. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel, and today we're going to look at some really bad home buying experiences shared by different people, and hopefully we can have one or two things to take away from that in the future if you're looking to buy a house. Well, my name is Raymond. I'm a local realtor in the state of Maryland and the District of Columbia. I'll leave a link to my information down in the description below. You can simply book a calendar appointment on my website as well, and that link will be in the description down below. But without further ado,
You guys, we just got literally played. So this is a story of a terrible home buying experience. Everyone who knows me in real life knows that my husband and I were recently in escrow. We have an awesome real estate agent. She has gone above and beyond for us, and we love her. As a first-time home buyer, there are a lot of things about escrow that we didn't really know, so we were definitely relying on the expertise of a real estate agent to kind of navigate the waters with us. If you don't know anything about buying a house, you're in escrow as the buyer. That's when you get to like write up all your contingencies, or basically everything that you see that is wrong with the house, and then you send it back to the seller and you play this tug of war until you agree upon.
So I guess she's not a real estate agent, obviously. Little point of correction. Your contingencies should be written when you submit your offer, not in escrow. The contingencies actually will help dictate whether or not your offer gets accepted. So a contingency would be, I need a home inspection. She said escrow is when you do that. Not really. So it's just a misplaced term, that's all. When you write an offer, you say financing contingency. I would expect to be financed in 21 days, 30 days, or I need to apply for financing within 3 days of the offer being accepted. Those are contingencies. I need to sell my current home while I buy that. It's a contingency. But anyway, let's keep going. I think what she meant to refer to is when you do go under contract and now you're doing an inspection. So now she's talking more so about changes, or you're negotiating terms based on the results from the inspection.
And then the house is yours. So on Monday, we paid inspectors to come to this house to do like the usual sewage, drainage, the overall house inspection. I cannot emphasize this enough. You need to pay for your own inspections. Do not let the seller pay for your inspections or do the inspections on your behalf. Because, oh my God, what we found. First off, we're in San Diego.
That you would think is a no-brainer, but a lot of people do that. So for instance, let's say a seller is selling a house, they already got it under contract before they got an inspection done, and they may have a copy of that inspection report. Or sometimes I advise sellers, if you're trying to sell a house, get a home inspection so you already know what's wrong with it. Some people would like to say, oh, I don't need to know. It depends. But what she's talking about is a seller having an inspection done already. Here's the thing. You want your opinion. You want your inspector. You want somebody you can trust to give you a good opinion. And also, don't just go with the first inspector or the inspector your realtor recommends. You can shop around yourself, or at least let them present to you 2 or 3 people and you choose one. But you always want to have your inspection done. In Maryland, you got to do a disclosure or a disclaimer. Disclaimer would be like, okay, I'm selling the house as is. I don't have any knowledge of anything. It's like a disclaimer. I'm not fixing anything. You still may have to report something you know that's considered a material fact, but you can disclaim like, I'm not taking care of this. Disclosure, on the other hand, you have to disclose every single thing. You got check boxes all over the place, and you got to answer questions for everything. You know, you can do either or. A buyer, on the other hand, can still go do an inspection, regardless of what you disclose or disclaim. All right, let's keep going.
And it's been really popular for developers to come into San Diego, buy up these homes, do shitty flips, and then put them back on the market and hope that somebody just buys it. And this slimy, terrible development company, they got us. As we were doing inspections, we got all our disclosures back, and the inspections on face value were fine. There was nothing super alarming until we got the disclosures back. I'm not a real estate expert, so I do not know what a disclosure technically means, but from my understanding, it's basically the state.
So I guess the rules might be different. What is she referring to as disclosures? So in the state of Maryland, for instance, you have to have the disclosures before you even go under contract. It's posted on the MLS. At least it's required for me as a buyer's agent, if I want to submit an offer, to take a look at the disclosures or hand my client the disclosure so they can read through the disclosure statement to see any possible obstacles and if they want to proceed. I don't know if she's referring to that or she's referring to the inspection report. There's a lot of back. But anyway, what I'll say is this. You can kind of see the problem there when she got the disclosure, she's saying, but I guess it's the inspection report. There are a lot of things that are wrong. We're going to listen to a little bit more of it just to see what she's talking about. But that happens all the time. Sometimes the seller might put a little bit of stuff on the disclosure, but when the inspector, that's why you need an inspector and you need a professional inspector. So for instance, don't always settle for price. Some inspectors are very cheap, right? Others are expensive, but it's not necessarily the price that dictates the quality of work. You just want to ask them, hey, do you have an infrared scanner? Because sometimes when they do the infrared scan, you can kind of see where there was a flooding leak or something in the basement and they painted over it. This infrared thing can kind of show you just discolorations and things like that. So you really want a really good inspector that has a drone that's going to go over the roof and really get you good pictures as well.
Of the house as per whoever lived in it. So it'll say like, oh, this is in this condition, this is in this condition, this is in this condition, etc., etc. You have to disclose all of those things when you're selling the home. As developers, they can write "I don't know" on every one of those things because they've never technically lived there. So we got the previous disclosures from the original owners of the house. And guys, this house had black mold in it. All over it. Under the entire foundation. Our real estate agent basically said that the home is probably not...
Yeah, so we'll stop it right there. I don't know how they got the disclosures from the previous owner. Maybe they had a good real estate agent. Because let's say I own a home, I sell it to somebody who's going to flip it. That person who's going to flip it doesn't necessarily have to give the disclosure I gave them. Because now they've done repairs. So now the house has it had black mold. But what if you gut it out, treat it, and repair it? She said it sounds like they got some shabby developers who just do the bare minimum and put houses on the market. So I got a developer I work with, flips houses as well, same thing. And one thing I try to do is like get a home warranty at least for your client or the buyer, even if I'm with the seller, at least for a year or so, which gives a little bit of peace of mind. But I always recommend you still get an inspection. I don't know what that black mold from the previous owner has to do with this one. Did they not clean it? Did they not treat it? Just because you see something that another owner had, if the developer does a good job and gut it out, gets it treated, they don't necessarily have to disclose that. That's no longer a latent defect. They've taken care of it. But from what it sounds like here, they didn't get that fixed. Those are just a couple of highlights. This video goes on for another 2 or so minutes, but we've done a little bit. Say the takeaway here is whenever you're buying a home, get an inspection, get your inspection. Don't know how they got a disclosure from 2 owners back, you know. Don't know if that's a thing in San Diego in Maryland. Yeah, if you buy the house and you know something, you got to disclose it. But if you're flipping, you can literally say I don't know on all of those things, because at least the goal of a good developer is to gut it out completely, make sure the house is livable, get inspectors in there, see everything that's wrong with it. Just be very careful. I do get her point of view with flips. It's not only flips, it's also builders. You know, this is business. People try to spend as least amount of money as possible. Builders will give you the cheapest items, and when the house settles, you start seeing crack. You know, when the foundation settles years in. Or builders would buy the cheapest things possible and they will flush out the HVAC unit rather than give you a new one. So just be very mindful of that. Make sure they're also using licensed contractors. So if it's a flip, you want to ask that, you know. Try to see if they're using licensed contractors. Because here's the thing, you don't want to buy a house and then let's say the county comes after you based on work that was done, or they see stuff there. You can still kind of go back and hold people liable, but it's just an unnecessary headache you don't want to deal with. All right, well, thanks for watching.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
Too much sugar, not okay. Like, you can have them in small amounts, I believe is what I was told. But he can't eat them just all willy-nilly like. So I took it upon myself today to take some clippers, beep, 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 and I cut only down my side of that cinder block fence. Just my side.
So that's a legitimate point she has there. The dogs, she has a dog. It goes in and out of the yard, and the neighbor's figs are falling over. The dog eats the fruits and has diarrhea all the time. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond Reffel. I am a real estate agent in the state of Maryland and the District of Columbia. Today we're going to react to a few videos about HOAs. We know there are lawsuits against certain HOAs. We know some people prefer to live in an HOA community just because it sometimes provides security and just it upholds the value of a home at times. Others despise HOAs because they don't like the restrictions. Before we get started, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if you know anybody looking to buy or sell a home in the District of Columbia in Maryland, I'll leave my information in the description down below. Without further ado, let's get started.
Happy Saturday, everyone. I may have just created a neighborhood war. Now, I need your opinions, your thoughts, because I might have just fucking pissed off my neighbor, and part of me is just like, you know what, I don't care, because they just don't seem to care. Now, I live in a community, right? HOA. We are houses on top of houses. My neighbor has like a secret garden. All of his fucking plants, trees, everything just grow over everybody's fences that are surrounded by his house. He don't give a flying fuck. I wouldn't care so much if the plants on...
So she said she just created an HOA war. And this is some of the things that I wanted to address. And some of the reasons why people don't like HOA communities. If you're in a non-HOA community, unless the county stops by to mess with you or the local municipal government, for the most part, you're free. Your neighbors may despise certain things you do. They can call the cops, but for the most part, you're free. In an HOA community, however, if you do a little thing your neighbor doesn't like, as she said, we're houses on top of houses, so they're all like together. You can see it that way, or they're like condominiums, one on top of the other, or they're just bunched and grouped together, not that much space. And she said she started the neighborhood war and doesn't care. Let's keep going.
My side weren't fruit trees, and the only reason I care about that is because I have a dog that has a dog door, and he can go in and out all day as often as he wants. The issue is he's eating the fruit that's falling off of the tree into my yard. I believe they're figs, that's what they look like, and it's giving my dog the shits.
It's really all about how you interact with your neighbors, or the golden rule of life: you do unto others as you want done unto you. But here's the thing, I noticed this with human beings. We don't care too much about the next person. Everybody is looking out for themselves. Just think about it. She's saying her neighbor's tree is protruding over her yard, and she wouldn't care so much if it didn't have any fruits. These are fruit trees, so what I'm assuming is they probably fall down and make a mess in her yard or whatever. We'll see. But one thing I want to point out is we don't care too much about the next person. Think about it. If you're a dog lover, I see it all the time. You go to stores and you got your dog running around and licking everybody's feet. Do you think for a second not everybody likes a dog? Or not everybody wants a dog to lick on their feet? You know? So same thing if you're a plant lover as a homeowner right now. You just let your plant grow onto your neighbor's house. Do you think for a second your neighbor may not like your plants? You know, and it's like, okay, my plants are growing, I don't care. You know, it's just what I notice. Everybody is out for themselves without a single thought in the world. Or people are just, that's why even the divide in society right now, people just think their way of thinking is the right, either the right way or should be the only way. But I think we should just take a second and just consider, yes, I like animals, but does everybody like animals? Some people are even allergic. They might love them, but they may be allergic to them. You know, some people may love plants, but they may be allergic to certain plants. Just take yourself out of it and be selfless is all I have to say about that. It really just bothers me sometimes when people just think the way they think should be the norm for everybody. Let's go.
Okay, too much sugar, not okay. Like you can have them in small amounts, I believe is what I was told. But he can't eat them just all willy-nilly like. So I took it upon myself today to take some clippers, beep, 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 and I cut only down my side of that cinder block fence. Just my side.
So that's a legitimate point she has there. The dogs, she has a dog. It goes in and out of the yard. and the neighbor's figs are falling over. The dog eats the fruits and has diarrhea all the time. Yes, you know, as much as you may want to be a good neighbor, if you got a dog coming in your house and making a mess because your neighbor's fruits keep falling over your yard, that is a valid point. It goes again to just what I mentioned, people not caring about the other. Let's see if she tried to address it with the neighbor prior to calling the HOA, because that's another way you can resolve it. You can just be a good neighbor sometimes and talk to them. But here's the thing. What if the neighbor just blows you off? That's why HOAs are desired by certain people, because they know the community can hold people to a standard. And here's the thing. If an HOA finds you, they can even fine you, put a lien on your house, and they can even force you to sell. They can even foreclose on you. You know, even if you're up to date on your mortgage, if there are certain things that you're falling behind on, or you're not keeping your home up to the HOA code, you can be forced out. So that's why certain people desire HOA communities, because they want their neighborhood to appeal and just have a certain aesthetic, certain feel, which will normally maintain the value of the home. You know, it's a plus, give and take, because if you're in a non-HOA community, just imagine you got this really nice home, then you got neighbors there with it just caused the neighborhood to run down. Grass, you know, 7-8 inches tall, you know, or just almost a foot tall. They turned the house into like a garage, various cars just parked all over, like a junkyard, parked all over, and getting rusty. There's a term, a particular term, and I'll try to add it in the description on the screen, but it's when a house, a rundown house in an affluent neighborhood gains value because of the neighborhood it's in. And also a mansion, there's another term for a mansion or nice house in a rundown neighborhood. That house loses value based on the neighborhood. There's a term for one that's gaining value and one that's losing value. So if you want to maintain the value of your home and you're doing the best, but you got neighbors who treat your neighborhood like a junkyard, and just potential buyers drive by, they look at your house, it just turns them off. There's a gentleman I spoke with, I was going to list his house, and he said, look, I want to sell, but my neighbor's house burnt down years ago. They are somewhere, but they just got a tarp all over the house. It doesn't appeal to buyers. Do you know this guy's contact? I don't know him. I haven't met him. But when I checked the county record, they're still the owner. So that property right there is bringing his property's value down, and he can't sell. That's almost like an absentee owner. They are alive. Unfortunately, they had a fire, but now the neighborhood just looks bad because there's this burnt down house that's just there, and it's been there for a while. I also know a couple, we were shopping for land, took them to go look at this land. Man, the neighbor's house was massive, beautiful. But when they walked the yard that they were trying to purchase, as nice as that neighbor's house was, on the backyard they had like chickens in like a barn, and that turned them off. They're like, I don't know if I want to be in this kind of setting. So your neighbor's house and how they live can influence the value of your home, is the big thing about HOAs, why people want HOAs for the most part. They keep the standard of the neighborhood. And let's keep listening.
I didn't even go over the center block fence. I just went all the way up, straight up my fence line. Now, is my neighbor gonna fucking hate me? I don't know, let's be honest, but what it comes down to is it's on my side in my yard and it's affecting my animals, so it's gone.
We're gonna wrap it up right there. But that's what I was talking about. She just took it upon herself to trim the branches that were protruding over her yard. And she within her rights to do that. Technically, it is her yard. And as far as land goes, it's considered the ground all the way down and all the way up, right? You own that in the state of Maryland, at least. Nationally, it should be the same. You do have certain restrictions if you're by a body of water and things of that nature. You may have to share. So she's within her right. Technically, it's her yard. But it's all about being a good neighbor. You just wonder what kind of relationship she has with her neighbor. Why they can't talk. Why she didn't talk to the neighbor. Maybe she did already. Maybe he refused to listen. But she just cut all the branches. So here's the thing. What if that cutting of the branch now kills the tree on the other side? Does the neighbor have grounds to stand on for a lawsuit? Or sometimes you trim branches and it's like they even grow faster. Anyway, I'll say this much. Be a good neighbor. Try to talk to your neighbors. And hopefully they are also good neighbors and they're considerate. And also just be considerate of somebody else's point of view, feelings, and things they go through, right? I'll leave a link to this video in the description down below as usual. And let's read. Do we have any comments? Just one here saying, I'm on your side, you're right. I definitely understand her point of view. Her pet is getting sick and having diarrhea. The neighbor's tree just grows over her yard. I totally understand that. The only part where I say maybe you should have at least tried to communicate is her just cutting it down. What if she would have spoken to the neighbor? He probably would have taken care of it without her having to do that. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
Do I regret buying a home? Hell yeah, I do. Now, before I dive into it, let me just say, being able to buy a home, huge privilege, right? And I actually bought it in a area that's a lower cost of living compared to where I'm originally from in LA. And I also bought it with a friend, so we split the cost of it, and we're converting it to rental property.
LA is expensive, but that's almost everywhere. Everywhere is very expensive now. That's a good idea, splitting the rent or mortgage with a friend, almost like a business partner. The only downside I would say right there is, welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond. I'm a realtor in Maryland and the District of Columbia. And today we're going to react to a video. This is regarding being house poor, just the affordability issue, right? Without further ado, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe because that's how you help the channel grow. But let's get right into it.
Do I regret buying a home? Hell yeah, I do. Now, before I dive into it, let me just say, being able to buy a home, huge privilege, right? And I actually bought it in a area that's a lower cost of living compared to where I'm originally from in LA. And I also bought it with a friend, so we split the cost of it, and we're converting it to rental property.
LA is expensive, but that's almost everywhere. Everywhere is very expensive now. That's a good idea, splitting the rent or mortgage with a friend, almost like a business partner. The only downside I would say right there is you gotta be careful with who you partner up with. Said a friend, so hopefully they stay friends, but sometimes some things that do hinder businesses or friendships and partnerships are these joint ventures, you know. Being friends is one thing. When you buy a house together, that's another. Another thing they mentioned is they plan on doing the Airbnb thing. House hacking by yourself is kind of good, but hopefully they're on board. They're both on the same page. Let's keep watching.
namely for Airbnb. But let me tell you why I regret buying it. After dropping a ton of money to acquire the home, dropping a ton of money in renovations, and then actually running the Airbnb, we're still largely net negative. We started the Airbnb in July of last.
He's saying after they dropped a lot of money in renovations and everything, they're running a net negative. So that is a business strategy thing, not getting your numbers right. Also, the Airbnb market is not what it once was. Once upon a time, it was really booming. That has died down a little bit. There are still some homes that are doing well, but it's not where it once was. Keep that in mind. Get your numbers right. Talk to a professional who's done it before. Sometimes you might have to pay for consultation. Just get a financial planner that can get you good numbers. You know, in LA, homes tend to appreciate and value over time. If that trend continues, he might come out on the positive, even if the Airbnb is not working out, right? Let's keep going.
Last year in 2025, and till now, we are negative 12K in the hole. This is the rental income minus operating expenses like utilities, maintenance, cleaners, and stuff like that. And this is minus mortgage and property taxes. And the thing that honestly kills me is at this point in time, had I done nothing with my money but just left it in the stock market and my high yield savings account, I would be way better off. Now, I know some of you might be thinking.
So that's always a question. What's the best way to utilize my money? If you can have money to do renovations and purchase a home in LA, you gotta think you should be a little well off, right? And just think about that in the stock market. The stock market has fluctuated with the Iran war. One day things go up, the next day they go down, but overall it's kind of been a steady climb. The big crash hasn't happened just yet. Here's what I'll say: just get a financial advisor to tell you the best strategy. If you got some money and you're looking, should I do an investment property? Should I put the money in the stock market? Just talk to a financial planner and let them do what they do. But the thing about real estate, sometimes you gotta play the long game. It's ironic he's talking about stocks. Stocks, most people that win with stocks tend to play the long game. You do have day traders, you got bots now that can trade with AI and all of that. God knows how that's going. But the stock market over time, even with the depression, the Great Depression and the recession, over time average has gone up, right? And average about 8 to 9% a year. So that tends to be a long game as well. I'll leave the link down to this content creator right here in the description down below. And hopefully things turn around with the Airbnb, and also hopefully the house appreciates and things work out. But a year in and being negative $12,000, I can feel that. I'll just say this much all the way around. The economy is a little tough. As far as that is a form of real estate right there, buying a house, trying to do short-term rental. I saw in the comment section somebody was talking about long-term rentals are better. That can be something to think about. And I saw the gentleman responded to that comment. You just gotta run your numbers. Talk to a financial advisor. Long-term rentals, here's the thing. You got somebody there for at least a year, 6 months to a year. These weekly weekends, if you're not able to get constant clients, it can hurt you. But the thing about long-term rentals is it might take you a month or two to secure a tenant, but once you got a tenant there, they're going to be there for about a year. And you just need to make sure you charge them enough to where you can pay your mortgage. You may not make a ton of money out of it, but your mortgage is paid off, property taxes and all the other expenses. Then you don't have to pay cleaners. You know, so here's some of the upside to long-term rentals. Once you rent it out, they may call you for renovations here and there if things go bad. But for a short-term rental, you gotta clean every time somebody moves in and move out. That's an added expense, you know, and the more people go in and out, the more possibilities there are of damages and things of that nature. So long-term rental, the other side of that is you may not yield a lot. You may just make $100, $200 more after it's all said and done, but somebody's paying your mortgage, you're building equity, and you building your real estate portfolio. Well, I think we went on for a while. This goes on for a little longer. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Check it out. Thanks for watching.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
Welcome everybody to the YouTube channel, and today we're going to talk about contractors from hell, right? Or home builders from hell. I have dealt with contractors and realtors and home builders from hell. There was one home, we went there right down the street. It looked very nice, but right on the window, man, we were getting ready to write an offer. Right on the window, we saw the stop work order from the county. Everything was brand new, but they did all of that without getting permits. And then the county slapped the stop work there. So guess what? I don't think they had enough money to gut it out and redo it per county code. So they just wanted to sell it and let you take the headache. And I had to tell my buyer, hey, I wouldn't do that. You never know how much of this you got to redo. So you do have some builders from hell and contractors from hell that don't get the right permits. But anyway, let's watch a few of these videos. I practice in Maryland and the District of Columbia, excuse me. Not licensed in Virginia, just DC and Maryland. So if you're looking to sell and buy in DC or Maryland, I'm your guy. And also make sure you like, share, and that's how you help the channel grow. Let's get started.
After nightmare situation just got so much worse. Like, holy God, so much worse. This is the brand new egress window that they just installed, y'all. And that is all of the mud that washed into my house through the egress window the very first time that it rained, like 3 days after they installed the window. It flooded all the way up to the middle point of the window.
So this is interesting here that she said rain. And, you know, this is what I tell home buyers, and it's very, sometimes you need some stroke of luck, right? Because this was not, I got a story where it's not a builder, but it was an inspector. They did the inspection. They said, okay, the roof may need to be replaced in a few years. Buyer loved the house. Everything else was repaired. As soon as the buyer went in there, it rained. Water just gushed through the roof. The whole attic, everything was bad. Everything was bad. And can you imagine, as a realtor, yeah, I closed the deal already, but these are my clients. How are they gonna feel? So I had to just fight and make sure they get their just due, that the inspector came through and got that roof fixed, because it's like, you said it'll hold up for a little bit, but you didn't say the roof was leaking, you know? So these are just things to think about. As soon as they fix the egress window, it's leaking and raining in there. That's just what came to mind there.
Flooded. That was standing water. That is why there is sediment on the glass halfway up. But that's not all. It also flooded in under the wall and into the next room, which I am now have lined with boxes because I'm frantically trying to get everything, out of the damage area and someplace where it's safer. Because now the entire space in my basement that I use, because now the entire space that I run my side hustle out of in my basement, coated in, again, a thick ass layer of mud that washed in from the outside thanks to the contractors that I hired to fix the mine.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip this video. A little too much profanity for me, but what I'll say is, just in Maryland we have a website where you can go and look at all contractors that are licensed. So just always use licensed contractors. I understand her frustration. It's like water just gushed in and there's a whole lot of damage to property. What I'll say, and when you're trying to sell your house and you want somebody to repair it, or even as a homeowner, you can get away with a little bit of DIY, but there are certain things that needs to be up to code. There are certain things that you need a licensed professional to do. There are certain things you got to run by the county. For instance, if your home is built prior to 1978 and you're doing any construction that requires a certain amount of space to be damaged, you need a licensed professional as far as that can mitigate lead-based paint. So these are all things you need to worry about. Get the right contractor is all I'll say. This is a new build here that we're going to look into. And this one here, I don't even think this is the United States of America, just looking at the electrical prongs. But I hear the same thing with a lot of new construction in the US as well. So it definitely pertains to real estate, and we're going to check it out.
Guys, can anyone see the problem? They also don't paint the walls above your wall units.
So you see the top of the cabinets are not being painted. You can see why they don't do it, because not too many people, I wouldn't stand on top of a stair just to look right under, the cabinet. But I get it, you're purchasing a house, you want everything done properly. What they probably should have done is probably painted it, then mounted the cabinets, but they're trying to save on money, as he said, but that looks bad if you can see on top of the cabinet. Not too many people will look at that. That's why builders don't do it.
Save on money nowadays. You can just stay at that.
And when you look at that, the nails right there, those cabinets look a little cheap. And honestly speaking, for new builds, man, sad to say, when you see those prices, if you haven't bought a new construction yet, when you see a price on a sign as you drive, that is like entry level stuff. If you want all the bells and whistles, just know you need about $25,000 to $50,000 more. Depending on the house, it can even go higher. Just basic level stuff. Those are very cheap cabinets, and that's probably what you're going to get on a new construction, unless you ask for better quality stuff. You wouldn't even get real tile in these kitchens sometimes. You just get one of those vinyl rolling tiles, It's just sad, and you pay so much money for it. They got the deck area normally. They got the deck area normally, and the patio door opens, and they just put a fence right there. They don't even give you a deck. You need a deck, extra money.
Even leave you with a nice little smashed up bit there. They don't even check the overflow on the sink nowadays. They just let it leak and then let you move in and find it all out for them. Because that's what we pay them to do. And I don't know what the fuck is going on around there. I mean, that is just absolute carnage. Look at the state of that. And also as well, the rector's a nice little extension lead, so we can plug something into that. I mean, how the...
Is that a finished product? Is that a final walkthrough? I would like to know what state of building this is, but that looks bad. That's why some contractors really do the initial build, you know, and then they schedule it so they can actually communicate with you. But that looks bad. And also, it's not always good to go into your build while it's being built. A lot of those, but it's kind of good to kind of see what's going on. But it's like, give them time to finish, because if that is finished product, that is horrible. That's all I say about that. For, you know, when I sold a house to a buyer and it was a new construction, the visits were scheduled. And another thing that people don't talk about are the houses setting after they build them. You know, when they build them, they set. How is the foundation going to sit? You see cracks, or would it be a good build? You know, so be very careful with your builders. Get reputable builders. You see it all the time on the news. People spend so much money, get a house built, and there's so much that needs to be fixed. Let's read some of these comments. They say, I did site work as a plumber. Everything gets rushed because of time frames made by people above the site manager pushing me for. This is true when you hear the actual plumbers, electricians, because sometimes these big construction firms, they buy the land, they just want to build, sell, build, sell, build, sell, and they gave their word. The same thing goes when you just think about it. Even if I go to the bank right now and want to do a new construction, they give me X amount of dollars. After one delay, I may get a pass. After the second delay, I got to start paying interest to the bank. So when you think about these big builders, that's something they run into as well, interest with the bank, right? So they got to sell and pass on that interest to the buyer, the home buyer, and they're done with it. So time frames got to get met, and that normally takes away from the craftsmanship or the quality of the work. Let's check this one out.
Into the renovation, and I'm giving you the worst update I could have ever give you. My contractor destroyed my house, not intentionally, but it clearly not qualified to do the job.
Tricky statement. The contractor destroyed the house, not intentionally. So you see, he's not trying to throw the person completely under the bus, but destruction got done, and he said they're definitely not qualified. So here's the thing: in this, you know, most states, but in Maryland, there are definitely websites to where you can go and see licensed contractors, you know. But just being that they're licensed sometimes is not enough. Sometimes you want to get somebody referred to you, you know, because when somebody's referred to you at times, their name is on the line and they'll do a better job. Let's look at this.
I'll just show you some of the damages. There's endless damages, and every day when we're removing another wall, we discover more and more damages. So here it is. After installing the kitchen, we discovered that all the electrical work he did is not up to code and it's dangerous, so we need to rip everything off. He broke the handles.
Man, look at that. All the wires, everything just there. That looks...
Of my $15,000 oven. This is the laundry area that we did, and as you can see, the 2x4 are connected.
I don't know if that was a flex or what that was. $15,000 oven and the handles are broken. Wow.
Nothing. This one, he just cut it in the middle and put the electric box on it, so there's the pressure on the electric box. Also, he didn't use the right plumbing. He used 1.5 inches, and for laundry you need 2 inches. And this is the worst part. The entire bathroom, we're gonna rip everything off. Nothing is leveled, as you can see. This is completely coming out. It needs to be leveled. He didn't.
Some things are not done up to code. Apparently, For laundry, you need 2 inches. I'm not a builder. What I'll say is make sure everything is done up to code. And sometimes, not taking this gentleman's story here, I'm just saying, sometimes you would like to hear both sides of the equation. Sometimes people want to renovate their house, they want to cut on costs, and they go get the cheapest contractor that somebody recommended. You don't know the whole story. But when he said clearly the person wasn't qualified, did he know that prior to? Did he just want to look out for somebody he knew and then they let him down? Whatever the case may be, the job is not done properly. Look at the bathroom right here.
Do the floor properly, so now we need to rip everything off. Here, look at this, it's just moving and it's not even in the same line.
To each his own. I like the finished products. Don't like what I'm seeing right now with just the choice of everything they're doing there. But wow, it seems very expensive, and just sometimes doing things the right way and the first time is just better. When I was younger, my dad always told me to always don't settle for cheap things, and I've learned that the hard way sometimes. You know, I bought things that I just regretted. Like, man, I could have just put in more money and got something of high quality. So don't cut corners sometimes. But if you're trying to sell a house, if you want to live in it, I got a video that I talked about just minor repairs and touches you can do. Sometimes when you go overboard in repairing a house, you may not recoup the money if you're trying to sell. So if it's your forever home and you want it to be really nice, I get that. But before you go on a crazy repair, if you're trying to sell, talk to a real estate professional and they'll point you out into the things you can do where you don't need to really go all out in spending. So here's some comments here. Please share the name. We have so many shady contractors in Miami. I don't think that is a Miami thing. Did you find him outside of Home Depot? That's what I was saying. Where did you get the contractor from? You need to know some backstory there. I would say sourcing, make sure they're licensed, and also hearing from people that they've done work for. You need to take legal action, obviously. Definitely the lowest bid, that's another thing. You put the house up for bid and contractors come and bid, and so that's why it sounds bad, it looks bad. But one thing I didn't want to just jump into is, this is terrible, because you never know. Sometimes there's a joke about a builder, and people did a bid. You got the A plan, the white glove plan, you got the plan B, plan C, and that builder said, where's the plan D? And he went and hired that. So sometimes you never know when people are trying to cut costs. They go hire the lowest bid, and then they're mad about how the thing turned out. So you don't know the backstory. But either way, let's say the contractor gave them their word. Either way, it is really bad. So just be very mindful. When people bid and underbid people, it may not always be the best. Sometimes people want to prove their worth, and you got to get in the door, so they underbid. But sometimes just getting somebody of quality and with a reputation is very good. This last gentleman here seems like a professional, and let's hear his story.
Y'all, Bill with AHB Realty and Property Management. I'm over here at a rental that I manage for a really good owner. He hired a repair guy that did not do his job right and cut corners and didn't do things correctly. So we come over and
here's the thing. This is why sometimes as a homeowner, you need a property manager like this. But from what I saw here, it seems like this property has multiple units, because he was saying, you'll see it But what I'm saying is this property manager here has a professional set of eyes that can identify shabby work. That if you, as a homeowner, you just are doing the property management thing yourself, you're trying to wing it as you go, contractors can slide a lot of things by you. But when you get a professional that knows what they're looking for, they can expose some of these contractors.
We're checking everything out. We got a tenant going to be looking at moving in a week or two, and we find that the downspout is loose. So we find that that's what he was using for the spout for the tubs. I said downspout, I meant tub spout. You never ever have this for a tub spout. You can't secure that properly. It wiggles and jiggles. You got to have copper, which is what we're doing right now. We're putting copper back in.
See, as a real estate professional, I try to stay in my lane. I wouldn't know all of those things. I'm not qualified to know that. It's not my job to know that. Yeah, I got to know a little bit about building, and my background prior to getting into real estate exposed me to just the whole building process, because I used to sell building materials to guys who flip houses. I would go in the house that's just a skeleton, and you sell them the whole build, from the 2x4s to the drywall to all the plumbing, the paint. You're just trying to see why are they buying this brand of windows and not this from us, you know. And I'm literally visiting job sites, so I know the building process, but I don't know what code is up to date. I don't know what type of pipe should be used here. You know, I can tell, okay, no lead pipes anymore. But what I say to real estate professionals is, you be the resource to a better resource. Always refer them to a better resource. Don't go in a house and make comments on things. Just be a resource to a better resource. I don't know what this gentleman's background is, but he says realty, property management, so he probably does this all the time and can see that and say that shouldn't be there.
But guess what? He also put the valve in the wrong location. That should be down here. And in addition,
see, knowing the positioning of where things should be, you can just, that's why it's always good as a homeowner or a landlord, get a professional that can be able to read and see that things are not done properly. Once again, I'll leave a link down to the description down below. There's a cracked pipe here as well. That is just terrible, you know. It's behind the wall, and the wall wasn't, they just put brand new drywall, and the pipe behind it is cracked. So, wow, it's just hard work. In order to take that cast iron pipe out, it would just be so much hard work. So they just put the drywall back there and they moved on. Just shabby work. That's why it's always good to inspect things. Get an inspector, get a professional. Real estate is really the biggest transaction most people are gonna do. So don't cut corners, don't be cheap. Always spend as you should. Inspect what you expect. Inspect what you expect. Hope you like this new series where we just go over what's going on in the industry, and it can also help advise buyers and sellers as they make their decision. All right, thanks for watching. Have a good day.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
All of the things that I could do before I bought the home, all of the things I could provide to my daughter before I bought my home, I can no longer do. I am what they call house poor.
Once again, I have to disagree with that. Homeownership doesn't require two incomes. It requires a big income. All right, welcome everybody. And today we're going to continue reacting to these videos. See that you guys are pretty much interested in them. But before we get started, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. That's how you help the channel grow. I really will appreciate it. We're closing in on 80,000 subscribers. Let's try to get there. Also, There's a link in the description down below if you're looking for a real estate agent in DC and Maryland. I'll be happy to help you. Just answer questions regarding selling your home or purchasing a home. All right, but without further ado, let's look into this right here. We're going to react to this video of, I believe this lady is talking about a home purchase that she may have second thoughts about.
Nearly 3 years ago, my ex-husband and I decided to move to this fancy golfing community. And for the first time in my life, at the age of 44, I finally understand what it's like to be house poor. When we first moved here, mortgage, taxes, and
I remember I made a mistake one time. I was young. I tried to get into business. I wouldn't say it was a mistake. I would say it was unfortunate. I had like all my equipments and things that I had purchased for the business stolen. And then I repurchased it, and then I had it stolen maybe a week or so. And come to think of it, maybe it's people I knew, maybe it's people that knew me. The first time things were stolen, it was not in an area where I live, but the second time it was in my apartment parking lot. So I just think like, maybe it's somebody I knew that broke into my van and got all my stuff out. But I was young, I was like in my early 20s, and man, my dad told me, hey, at least you learn this lesson while you're young. So sometimes the older you get in life, the less opportunities you get to make mistakes. You understand? Time is running out. It's like a game. You can possibly make a mistake in the first quarter, right? And get away with it. But once you get down to that last few minutes of that fourth quarter, you got to lock in, because a mistake made then can really cost you the game. So that's what I think about when she talks about at age 44. It's not over yet. But if that mistake was made in her mid 20s to early 30s, you can say, okay, I got time. But once you get that old and you're experiencing something like that for the first time, it can really set you back. But let's continue.
insurance, they were all affordable. But shortly after moving here, our property tax.
So that's another thing we want to touch on for potential home owners, right? When you first buy a house, so when I purchased my house, I think my total payment now is about 100 and some change over the original mortgage. And that has nothing to do with my mortgage, because I don't have like I have a fixed mortgage rate for 30-year fixed. So initially I was shocked, like, what's up with this? But then you got to factor in property value goes up. So the property taxes go up, and I didn't factor that in. So I was shocked when a year into owning my house, I saw the mortgage go up, because the bank is going to include your mortgage and everything in the monthly your mortgage, your insurance, escrow, everything into that payment. So that's what she's talking about. Initially those things were affordable, but depending on what, sometimes when people want to purchase a home in a desirable community, this is something to think about. So if you purchase a home in an area they say is booming, just keep in mind, if it actually does boom, your monthly property tax is going to be crazy high. Some areas allow you to pay annually. Either way, it's kind of broken down, right? But I've seen people lose homes because sometimes the area gets so gentrified, as they say, and the value of that property goes so high that low-income family cannot afford the new taxes. This doesn't seem like that kind of situation. She's talking about a decent community here, so she was well-to-do, but it was affordable. So just keep that in mind when you're purchasing a home. Don't just jump in because the initial monthly payment is affordable. Factor in property taxes increasing, HOA fees going up, things of that nature.
Taxes started to raise. Our insurance went up to match it. And in the entire time of our existence here, which is about 3 months of 3 years, 3 months shy of 3 years, Property taxes and homeowners insurance has went up about $3,500 per month. Now, if you do the math over a span of 1 year,
That is high. I was just saying mine went up. Well, mine went up about $100, but when you factor it through 12 months, I guess it's similar. Not quite. Mine, you can say it's probably 2,000. She said hers went up by $3,500. That's annually, I'm assuming, and that pretty much speaks to two things, right? I don't know where she is. It looks sunny, but let's say you were in California, for instance, prior to the wildfires, and then a lot of wildfires happen. The insurance in that area is going to skyrocket. Homeowners insurance, because they got to recoup that money. They got to, make sure they can cover future wildfires. So let's say that wasn't a thing initially, but then it happens, that can skyrocket the mortgage. And also, if it's an area, like I mentioned, that you see a lot of new constructions, things are booming in that area, that can definitely affect your eventual property taxes.
that's a lot of fucking money. And I will just say this much, it's been a very humbling experience. And I will just say...
So, is she saying that went up $3,500 a month? That is crazy. I would like to know what community that is, because I'm thinking mine went up about 100 or so, 100 maybe $150 a month. But she's saying $3,500 a month. So that, you got to think about the HOA fee. But from what she's saying, anyway, let's watch it.
Nearly 3 years ago.
Yeah, so I'll put a link to this video in the description down below. You can hear the full thing, but from what I'm hearing, or what she said, it's a golf course community. So, seems like there's a beautiful lake in the background. So it must be a really nice neighborhood. And just one of those communities where everybody is trying to get in. That's what I'm assuming. We have one of those right down the street from me where maybe one home goes available for sale every year or two, and then they just get crazy offers because everybody wants to live in that community. There's a golf course, 30 acres of lake in the back, and the golf course is just gated, So these things are just desired. There's one gated one, and then there's the one with the golf course with the 30-acre lake in the background. And both of those communities in two different neighborhoods are like highly sought after. So from what I'm seeing, I think she mentioned that. I may have missed that, but I think I watched this video before, and she mentioned it's a golf course community. So you can imagine. Maybe those are all part of the HOA fees. Just be very mindful when you purchase a home. Keep in mind that what you think is your payment right now may not be your payment moving forward.
Buying a home as a single parent is a bad idea. I'm a single parent who bought a home, and I am thousands of dollars in debt. I thought that buying a home would be the best thing.
So, buying a home as a single parent is a bad idea. I wouldn't necessarily agree to that statement in totality, but there is some truth there. I don't think it has to do with parental status. Let's say if you're a single parent making a lot of money with a really decent job, then it can work. But if you're single, it just depends on finances. That's my take on it. I don't necessarily believe, because I know when you say single parents, most people think about divorces or separations, but let's say somebody passes away, right? And you end up being single and you have a child, would you not buy a house if you can afford it? So really, it's not about your marital or parental status that dictates whether buying a house is a good decision. I think what ultimately dictates that is your ability to afford the house. If you are just barely getting by, then having a child on top of it makes things harder. Anyway, let's keep going.
Buying my daughter and I didn't take into consideration property taxes. My mortgage went from $1,400 to $1,900 in 2 years. I'm in debt because I had 3 water leaks.
Yeah, wow. That's the common theme in these reaction videos I'm seeing is the property tax thing that people don't consider. That happened to me as well. Thankfully, my property taxes went up a few $100s in 4 years. But I have seen, as far as my monthly payment, but I have seen an increase in payment. And yes, the first year I was caught off guard. Didn't quite understand the concept. You know, you go through everything with the lender. So here's an advice to buyers. Have your lender just, or your agent, explain it to you. They may not be able to predict how high your property taxes are going to increase. That has a lot of variables, right, to consider. We're thinking about developments in the area. We're thinking about just property value in the neighborhood. If the property value in the neighborhood, let's say, goes up, a lot of houses appreciate in value based on sales, then that is definitely going to dictate your property taxes. Another thing sometimes are the insurance costs, right? So we look at natural disasters. For some reason, when there are a lot of disasters in an area like flooding, hurricanes, or wildfires, and if they're repetitive, then it can increase insurance, right? And that is something that I was caught off guard with when I bought my house the first year. I just honestly didn't get a clear explanation at the time. I wasn't a realtor. I was like, okay, this is my mortgage, and the following year, my mortgage went up. But at that time, I had kind of gotten into real estate now, so I was like, okay, that explains that. But I wasn't anticipating it until it hit. I was just like, what changed, you know? And a lot of people run into that.
Not only did I have to pay the rise in property taxes, but I had to pay for the maintenance in my home. I definitely believe that home ownership requires 2 incomes.
Yeah, so that's another thing a lot of home buyers don't get. The question always comes up as far as in value. Should you rent or should you buy? And the biggest difference for me, I would say two major differences. One would be equity. When you buy, you're building equity or you're building wealth. You're saving money in essence. If you have to sell it, if you get old and you don't have a good retirement, you can do a reverse mortgage. You can sell the house, downsize. So you're building an asset. But on the flip side to that, the cost of owning a home is exponential when you think about consider to rent. And if you're paying a rent at a place where all utilities are included, the rent may be higher, but you pay your rent. You don't have to worry about cutting the grass. You don't have to worry about plumbing leak. You just call maintenance. Power goes out, call the maintenance. You know, obviously maybe change your light bulbs, but something electrical goes wrong, call the maintenance. Appliances go bad, call maintenance. That goes out the window when you're a homeowner. She's talking about water leaks. That is all on you. Just showed the house today. We saw a lot of drywall cut up that we weren't expecting, but now you're wondering, is this an electrical problem? Is this a plumbing issue? So, in essence, you're the repair person. And those maintenance issues are things to keep in mind. So, for instance, the showing I did today, that may be somebody trying to sell a house just because of all these issues they ran into. You can see they fixed some stuff, but maybe they ran out of cash. I don't know the full detail, but things like that you got to keep in mind. Lawn work. you know, unless you're renting a house where you are in charge or per the lease, you have to take care of the lawn. Most people rent apartments. So when you rent an apartment, you ain't got to worry about the lawn being done. Wintertime, the snow plow, that's all on you, all right? Driving by, it was almost 100 degrees today going to the showing, and you see an old lady mowing her lawn, and you just say, wow, you know, that is, maybe she likes to exercise, but whatever the case may be, if you're renting, you ain't got to worry about that.
All of the things that I could do before I bought the home, all of the things I could provide to my daughter before I bought my home, I can no longer do. I am what they call house poor.
Once again, I have to disagree with that. Home ownership doesn't require two incomes. It requires a big income. Or if you need two to get that amount, good. It's always, in this society now, I'm not going to get into divorce rates and all of that. But back in the day, when you think about things, when things were affordable, there was only one breadwinner, right? Before most women went into the workforce, and they even had a better life. The American dream was alive. The white picket fence, you know, it's just the cost of living went up, and the income hasn't really matched it, because back then one person can go work at a plant somewhere and can afford a nice middle class family. So I do get her point. I'm not completely disagreeing with her that two is always better than one. You know, not to get religious on you, but the Bible talks about when it's cold, one can keep the other warm, you know, or if something happens to one, the other can step up. So I get the concept. And even when you think about wealth, people think for the most part, by myself is always good, but stats show that married couples end up making more money in the long term, just because of even tax breaks, right? And all of those things. You're taxed a little differently than a single person. So she's not totally wrong. If you can get a partner, fine. But what if your partner, like I said, passes away, but you're a doctor or a lawyer? You can still afford it. It's not really one income is bad. Don't buy a house. That's like a generalization. I think the amount of money you make is going to dictate whether or not you can buy a house and the quality of house you can buy.
If you are a single parent looking to buy a home, I hope you have thousands of dollars.
All right, well, what I'll do is I'll leave a link to the description down below. She goes on for a little bit more. I guess I can read a couple of these comments. It says, being a homeowner is very glamorized. It's hard. This is from Chef Vic. There's a lot of unexpected expenses. People never talk about that part. That I agree with, the unexpected expenses. And then another comment right here says, owning a home on a single income is really hard. These days, it really is. It depends on the income, though. I'm going to stick with that. There is so much more to owning a home than paying the mortgage. Absolutely. We talked about that already, repairs and things of that nature. But let's just say I know people who individually make more money than the average married family, the average family, you know. We're talking mother, father, and sometimes teenage kids that make money. And they all file taxes jointly as a family. There are people who make more money than that family. So the average income, household income in America ranges between 70 to 100 and something thousand based on where you live. But we know there are people who make way more money than that individually, right? So that disproves the argument of one income is not good enough. One person can make more than an entire family. They can afford a house and comfortably. So once again, I don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly. But she does make some valid points here. All I'll say for home buyers is watch for your expenses. Just get a real good lender or financial advisor to tell you, and a realtor, a good realtor, to just prepare you for home ownership. Increase in taxes, increases in HOA fees, also added costs that come with owning a home over time, unexpected repairs. You really need what I really recommend is to do a buyer's consultation with a realtor and let them just prepare you for the process. Because just jumping into it, oh, I got more money on a raise or a new job, let me buy a house. Don't just go into it all willy-nilly. There's a lot to it.
Meal prep with me while I yap about how expensive home ownership is. If you are feeling behind financially and feel like you won't...
Well, she's doing a meal prep, and I'll put a link to the original video down below. Looks like she's making some corn. We'll see how the meal turns out as we react. Let's go.
Ever be able to afford a house? I'm here to assure you, owning a house doesn't have that much benefit over renting, if not worse. First of all, the housing market bloom has been over. If you plan
owning a house, see, that's why I do these reaction videos, is to, I don't want to say contradict, I don't want to be a contrarian, but to dispute or at least to pose a different take on things. These generalization, owning a home doesn't have much benefit than renting. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. It depends on situation. So you see a lot of people when they get older, they downsize. It makes no sense to mow an acre of lawn, take care of most of the renovation. So they downsize, they get a condo where it's a 55 plus community. They have some certain safety and, you know, they give up some responsibilities as far as repairs and lawn care. But if you own a home, you're building equity. Sometimes it makes sense to rent. It's all based on situation. You just can't generally say owning a home is not as good as renting or doesn't have as much benefit as renting. I wouldn't totally agree with that, because real estate in general has made more millionaires than a lot of other industries and businesses combined. So people are making money just by owning homes. There are some people who cannot afford a retirement, but let's say at one point they bought a house for $300,000 or $400,000, and 30 years later that house is knocking on $1 million. Some people live off their equity in a reverse mortgage. Other people pay it off and can give their children a head start. Their child may not want to own that house as their dream home with their family, but they now can go buy another property and rent that property. So you're giving your kids a different start in life. If you started renting, now your child starts off with one house while they have their house. Think about it, right? And also, I know a gentleman who has $1 million home that he's not paying for. His grandfather actually purchased it, you know, and it's located right around the Virginia area, but he was giving me the history of the house. The house was actually disputed as far as Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland when they were trying to do the borders. And his grandfather's house is the only one that is not in that Virginia area. But just based on the location where that house was bought and built, that is one of the most affluent areas now in America, period. And now he owns that home that his father owned, that his grandfather owned, and all he pays is taxes and maintenance. So you can't tell me owning that house is not better than renting, you know, where generations before him set him up for that. So take that with a grain of salt. Let's go.
on buying a house for the sake of investment is not a good idea anymore. When I bought this house, the previous owner sold the house double the price of when they bought it. But after
I agree with part of that. The housing market boom has definitely been over. That was pandemic time. The interest rates were just really great. I secured a 2.7 or 2 point something interest rate. Can you imagine? Now interest rates are knocking on 7-8%. They've been fluctuating between 5 to 7. So imagine buying the same house now, it'd be hundreds of dollars more. And also, some people say the value of homes have been overestimated. So some people are talking about a bubble that's going to burst. So I kind of agree with, you may buy a house and you think you have a lot of money there, but you really don't, because the value of that home has been overestimated. If there's a crash, people can easily see almost 40 to 50% of their equity, perceived equity, wiped off because of the inaccurate numbers, as some experts claim. But one thing that's keeping that from happening is really the lack of inventory. Not enough houses. So as long as the demand supersedes the supply, the value is going to stay up, or at least stay decent.
Bought the house, the price didn't go up much, and selling a house costs money, so I would probably end up making no money if I sell the house. Second, the maintenance is a money sucker. My house doesn't have any major issue to start with, but my money keeps flying out of my pockets. I had rats in my garage a while back, and pest.
Food looks good, and a couple of things she touched on there that I kind of agree with. I see it as well when I just look at the history of my house, and I see where it was and where it is now. There was a big spike in equity or valuation. Then since I bought it, it's gone up in value, thank God. It hasn't depreciated, but I don't think I can just sell my house, even though I've owned it for over 4 years, like just sell it today and make a ton of money. You know, the cost, you got to think about at least 4 to 5% in agent fees and all other taxes and transfer taxes and things of that nature, and also minor repairs or major repairs that you may need to do to sell. So I definitely get that. Eventually, over time, barring some kind of global disaster, as the population increases, the demand for houses are going to increase. And as long as the demand increases, the value of homes tend to go up over time. Just inflation causes that. When you think about some of these homes, they were worth I remember back when I was a kid, if you had a house of 300 grand, you're in the upper middle class. Now that's just like an entry level home. The median home in America is somewhere around 400,000 or 350 grand. In Maryland, it's somewhere around 400 grand because the market here is a little higher than the national average. That's just the average. But back then, when we were kids, if you buy a house for 300 and something thousand, my God, that's like you get almost a mini mansion now. Now, if you want to get one of those, you're looking at 700,000-800,000. So I get that point.
Control costs $1,500. I also have a big tree next to my house, and during windy nights, I couldn't sleep because the branches keep dropping onto the roof, and I had anxiety over being unalived by the tree falling onto my house. So I paid over $1,000 for the arborist to trim the tree. With inflation, hiring someone to fix something is getting exponentially expensive. Yes,
Well, here she's talking about repairs, and I definitely get that. That looks good as far as what she's cooking. You can watch the rest of the video. I'll leave a link down in the description below. But I do get that when you buy a house, the expenses sometimes can blindside you. It's like every year since I bought my house, I've been doing one major repair. Some of it is required. Some of it is just me trying to make sure I keep up the value in case I want to sell. Hopefully this is not my forever home. It wasn't the goal. It was an entry-level home, and I'm okay with that. But it's like, if I do want to sell it or rent it out, I need it to be at a place where I'm not going to just have to dump a lot of money into it to get it to where I need it to be. So every year I take it on myself to do one major improvement, and sometimes things come up that you didn't expect. So I get her point in repairs, unexpected repairs, but let's read some of these comments. It says renting a house isn't cheaper
I feel like I have to
in
be
your
stuck at
working
one
years,
location.
but it's
If I get laid
crucial
off,
in your
I might need to
retirement
get a
years.
job.
Yes, definitely. I talked about reverse mortgages. Paying rent when you're retired takes up so much of your money. It pays in the long run to buy a house and to pay it off early, so that when your income goes down, your medical expenses goes up. You don't have to worry about the cost of rent. I totally agree there. I know a lady who paid off her house in 7 years. She lived a very frugal lifestyle, right? She was a minimalist to the extreme. Some things I can't do, as far as, oh, I'm not going to buy a car, I'll ride public transportation. Thankfully, she bought the house in a city where the metro is good, the train is good, the buses run well, but I don't know if I want to live like that, be on public transportation all the time, eating a noodles dinner every day, just go to Costco or these Sam's Club and just buy big boxes of noodles. But it's a commitment. She did that, and she just spent so little on food, so little on transportation, and paid off her house in 7 years. So think about it. She's like in her maybe early 40s, late 30s, and the house is paid off. Now you can even buy multiple houses from there. You can get the money out, get a rental property, whatever. So I wouldn't say, oh, just rent forever. When you think about somebody just dedicating their life to paying off their house in 7 years, and now it's done. All they got to do is pay property taxes and repair it as they see fit. You can't tell me that homeowner in a city that's booming, I know exactly the city it's booming, one of the fastest growing cities in Maryland, that lady is set. You know, you never know, but she's set as far as future wise. House is paid off. Anything that happens, house is paid off. So yeah, it really is a case by case base thing. I don't say buying a house is better than renting, and I wouldn't say renting is better than buying a house. It's all situational. If you have to move, if you have a job where you know it's not going to be your destination forever and you may have to get up and move, it's probably best to rent. If you're in a situation where you're looking to start a family, let's say you have a fiance that's in college somewhere, and you people may plan to go start a family somewhere, it's probably best to rent in the time being. If your money is not where it needs to be, it's probably best to rent. So there are situations where renting is better than buying. But in the long term, it's always better to be an owner.
We bought an ugly house and we can't afford to renovate all of it right away. It's not really ugly. It's actually really charming. It has really, really cute aspects and really, really cute corners. It's just super outdated and has ugly tile, and just people who lived in the house never did anything to it. Right now, my daughter and I are just enjoying some time.
So I kind of did the same thing with my first house. I bought a house that I don't know what color scheme they were thinking about. Yellow bedroom here, purple paint in the utility room, green in another room, pink in the bathroom. But I like the yard size, I like the location. I was like, okay, let me buy this house, fix it up. And I'm still fixing it up. Years going by, and I like that approach for the first go round, but sometimes some people don't want to deal with that. They just buy a brand new construction. I see that as a good thing sometimes. You just buy a house if you don't want to deal with the headache. In the future, when I do relocate, I'll get a more newer house where I'm not worried about repairs. But I like that approach sometimes. As I mentioned in a previous video, I know a lady who bought a house and paid it off in 7 years. And it's not a brand new house, but it's in a very good location, decent house, and she did a few repairs, but she's repairing it as she goes. Sometimes there's a gem in a house and you just buy it and you put some money into it, and the value appreciates over time. I went to this house today to show a client, and you know, literally there's a pink hallway as far as the carpet, and you can look from one bedroom to another bedroom. Green carpet in one bedroom, blue carpet in another, and pink in the middle. I don't know how people color coordinate. You know, it's like, wow, green carpet, blue carpet, pink in the middle. And if a client purchases that home, they got to do some repair, but it's in a really great location and there's potential there. So I see why somebody can buy a house like that. You buy a house like that, let's say for about 300 grand, you put in about 50,000 to get it to where you needed to be. in a 203K renovation loan or something, or if you have the cash, you fix it up, you can buy that house at 300 grand and you're instantly walking into it with 50 or more $1,000 in equity. So that's another way to think about it.
Outside, and I can't wait for it to one day be magical, but look at this backyard. There is so much potential, and I cannot wait to take you guys on the journey of just where this house is going to be and how I'm going to make this a magic.
I'll wrap it up right there. She's showing the backyard, and that is another reason why I bought my house. The yard is just humongous. I can probably build another house there, get it partition, you know, I can get it, what's the word I'm looking for? Subdivided. Get the house into multiple subdivisions and put 1 or 2 more houses because of the size of the yard and the privacy. I like that. So I would say buying a house that has potential and you see the vision is one thing, but just know what you're getting into. To wrap it up, just know what you're getting into and be okay with your decision. Consider it, consider the options, because you can always purchase a home that's already done. I know one family member that did that and it's okay with that. I know another family member who bought a house, built some equity, sold it, and now they bought their forever home. You know, that's $1 million plus. So you go from there. You know, you can start somewhere, get your foot in the real estate door. Don't get into a money pit, however, because some of these older houses got issues that can really drain your wallet. Get an inspection and an appraisal, right? But I definitely say get an inspection, multiple inspections. We're talking structural and mechanical. Wood destroying insect. If you have a septic tank, you need to get that inspected. The roof. Spend some money and know what you're getting into if you're going to buy a project, right? But with the economy being what it is right now, you can see why a lot of people cannot work with project homes, because the cost of renovating just has gone up. I saw it happen in the pandemic where lumber, was it a 2x4, was somewhere around $2, then all of a sudden it shot up to about $7. It started to come down after things opened up, but inflation is real, right? Let's read 1 or 2 comments here. A fairy garden would be so magical. I guess she talked about putting a fairy garden there for her daughter. Well, we'll wrap this one up here. I'll leave a comment in the description down below. I'll leave a link to the original video in the description down below. There is a value in buying a home and making it your dream home. One thing I'll say though, make sure it's your forever home. If you're doing renovations and you do plan on selling it, don't do too much that may not be relatable to other buyers in the future. So be very mindful of your repairs, just in case you need to sell. You want to make it appealing to the masses, is the phrase I'm looking for. All right, well, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
In a few weeks, and we were ready to close. Day before closing, it rained like cats and dogs, like you wouldn't believe. Now, the property was vacant because my sellers had moved out weeks before, so I was checking the property every few days to make sure it was locked up. So guys, buyers arrived to do their final walkthrough on closing day. They go down to the basement and there's 3 inches of water covering the entire basement. So as you might have guessed, they backed out.
Well, here's the thing. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond. I'm a local realtor in DC and Maryland, and today we are going to do some reaction videos. Without further ado, let's get started.
This really cute property. It had a beautiful curb appeal and it was fully updated inside and out. As part of the listing process, I sit down with the sellers to understand what the features and benefits are with the property, but also understand what the known material facts are to the seller so that I can ensure that I inform the public. In this case, the property was in a flood zone, so I just made sure to inform the public that the property was in a flood zone. No problems. We went live. We had great turnout and we ended up getting multiple offers. Buyers ended up getting cleared to close within a few weeks and we were ready to close. Day before closing, it rained like cats and dogs like you wouldn't believe. Now the property was vacant because my sellers had moved out weeks before, so I was checking the property every few days to make sure it was locked up. So guys, buyers arrived to do their final walkthrough on closing day. They go down to the basement and there's 3 inches of water covering the entire basement. So as you might have guessed, they backed out.
Well, here's the thing. You do have to disclose certain things, but I'll say this. I don't know about what state she practices in. In the state of Maryland, it's the seller who has to do the disclosures. So we, as a real estate agent, if you do know a material fact, and the material fact is something that can affect a buyer's decision, really, to purchase a property. So let's say if I know a material fact, I have to disclose it. However, if I learn that material fact in like in a confidential setting, when I wasn't representing the seller, I may have to just speak with a broker or just, recuse myself from the transaction, because at that time I may not be able to be objective. I know something the seller may not want to disclose, but legally I have to tell the buyer. But at the same time, I learned this information in a confidential setting where confidentiality still has to be maintained throughout and even past the transaction, right? So these are things you just got to watch out for as a listing agent. Is the seller trying to be sneaky by not informing people about material facts? So you just got to communicate it to the seller like, hey, you fill out this form, but you have to be honest. Because here's the thing. In Maryland, 3 years after a transaction is closed, a real estate agent can still be held liable, or somebody can file a complaint, at least to the real estate commission, up to 3 years after. If it's past that, maybe they can go to civil court or something, but at least the real estate commission will entertain something for 3 years. So you just want to make sure you got your I's dotted, your T's crossed. And I just did a showing. When was this? This very week. And we went to the basement. It's been raining a lot here all day. Not all day, but every day, at least for a few hours. Even today was raining in the morning. So we went there previously. My buyer was trying to submit an offer. Next time we went there, we just saw a little puddle of water in the basement, but we couldn't tell where it came from. But the way the backyard is, it kind of slopes down, then flattens out. So one of my clients was a little concerned as to where this water is coming from. And that's one of the homework that I was actually given. Go find out if this is a flood zone and have they ever had problems with flooding. But not only rain, but let's say when it snows. As I said, the backyard slopes down and flattens out, but it flattens out and then there's the patio door. So you just think if you get a foot of snow, you can look out the patio door and just see the snow on the glass. And when that happens, is that going to affect the property or the house? So, that's a legit concern for the buyers to try to know what kind of problems the sellers have had. So there is a disclosure form that you must provide a seller, and it's not the real estate agent's job to complete that form. However, by law, if you know material fact, you cannot hide it. You have to disclose it. So just be transparent. Even if you're a listing agent, now you know material fact, the seller may not want to disclose it. You have to tell them, as an agent, legally I'm required to disclose this. If they choose not to have you as their agent, then so be it. But it's better to lose a transaction than to lose your license. That's just the way I take it. I think that is it for this video, but it's unfortunate right after you close or right before you close, you go check out the house and there's water in the basement. Here's what I'll say. I'll always never count a commission check until it hits my account, you know, because things can go wrong in transactions. Something like this, a buyer may see that and want to walk away, you know. And another good practice is I don't just let the listing sit there. You got to periodically stop by. Some houses vacant can just develop odors. Some people looking at the property may use the bathroom and not flush it. Just things happen. Some people may walk in while it's raining, even though you got shoe covers there, they ignore that. And now you got, you know, footprints on the hardwood that you can just mop or sweep up. But just little things like that. You always want to periodically check on your listing. You know, or if you're in an office setting where you have multiple agents, you can always try to get an agent who's close by, if the listing is a little further out for you, to stop by and take a sneak peek at it, or at least drive by and make sure everything is okay. We just did some reactions to squatters going into properties that are vacant. So these are all things to think about. Yeah, well, I'll leave a link to this video in the description down below. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and share your story, or you can leave a question down to let me know if you have any video you may want me to react to.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
It's a very, very nice modular home. I'm not upset with the home itself at all. It was built by Franklin. We did have a couple issues with them, but all that's been resolved and they've made their end of the deal correct.
Modular home. So a modular home, I believe, is one that's built in a factory already. It's quite different from a mobile home. Mobile homes, you can move. You attach a chassis to it. It can be moved, technically. A modular home is... All right, welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond. I'm a realtor in the state of Maryland and Washington, D.C. Today we're going to react to a home buyer nightmare story, and hopefully we can learn some lessons here on what not to do when buying a house. If you're looking to make a move to Maryland or D.C., my contact information will be in the description down below. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump right in, okay?
A story time on how we spent over $300,000 on a home that we still can't move into yet. I'm at work, so if I have to do this in multiple parts, I'm sorry. But we started this process in October of 2025 when we sold our home that we lived in for the past 9 years. We had to sell our house to finish paying off the 11 acres that we bought previously, and in order to get the new house. So all that said and done, you know, paid what we owed on the old house, paid off the 11 acres. So we started talking with Pratt Homes out of Tyler, Texas. We spoke with several different home builders and companies prior to choosing Pratt. We also went and talked to Pratt a couple of different times before we, decided to go with them ultimately. So we go through there, we pick out the home that we want.
Not a great storyteller, I guess, but maybe she gave a disclaimer. It's going to take a while. Could have easily just said, hey, I sold my old house, bought land, and get to the building point. I guess it's a humble brag to talk about the 11 acres and all that extra stuff. Anyway, gist of the story is she closed on a house, used that money to buy land, and they want to do a new construction. I see that a lot with people on their second house. The first house, you're just trying to get your foot in the real estate door. But on your second house, if you're well-to-do, you most likely get a lot of acreage. I've been working with this couple. They're trying to get about 5 acres in the Alkekik area. It needs to be flat. They already have the builder, architect draw up the new house with the separate garage. They know what they want to do with the 5 acres of land. So most people, once they've arrived financially, don't mind building their own property. This sounds like it's going to be one of those builder issues. Let's keep going.
It's a very, very nice modular home. I'm not upset with the home itself at all. It was built by Franklin. We did have a couple issues with them, but all that's been resolved and they've made their end of the deal correct.
Modular home. So a modular home, I believe, is one that's built in a factory already. It's quite different from a mobile home. Mobile homes, you can move. You attach a chassis to it. It can be moved, technically. A modular home is, they don't necessarily build it on site. They just assemble it on site. So they got all the pieces, and you can sometimes, if you're driving down the highway, you see all these pieces to the house stacked up one on top of each other, and they've been transported by these oversized load cars or trucks, and they pretty much bring it to the location and then they assemble it there. So modular homes are built in factories. From a building perspective, they can do multiple similar houses quicker, and then you get it to the site and then they just put it together. That's my understanding of a modular home. Let's keep going.
So the actual home didn't start being built in the factory until November of 25. And whenever we signed contracts and went over everything with Pratt, we were told by several different people within their company that when the home was finished in the factory and put on our property, that we would be able to move in 45 to 60 days after the home was put there. So the home was placed on the property in March. I believe it was March 5th to be exact.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, a modular home is a house that's built in a factory. They put all the parts there. Sometimes, depending on the size of the house, they can bring the entire thing over, but most of them you got to bring like sides of the house, and they build the puzzle there. What I'm hearing is she was told by the builder that once it arrives, we'll get everything up and running in X amount of days. Couple of red flags that go up there. You want to think about permits and water line. Is that something that they discussed? Utilities and looking at the ground. Did they do all of those things? You're hoping they did all of those things to see groundwater, because not every piece of land can take a house. So hopefully they did all of those things, and it's a matter of just assembling the property, connecting utilities. That's another reason why people do modular homes. They kind of should be faster because the factory can produce them faster. Once it gets there, it can be assembled faster than something being built from scratch on the land.
And we have stayed on top of everything that they've asked us to do. We had to wait, I think, 10 days for Encore to come hook up electric. That was the longest wait on our side. Then there were several weeks with no contact from Pratt, no contact from Franklin, no contact from anybody. from our contractor. Just had no idea what was going on, just left in the dark. We would send emails, we would make phone calls, no one would respond to us. And so we didn't know where we were at in the process. We could just drive by and see the house. We finally get a phone call from Franklin saying that our trim out crew, if you're not familiar with modulars, it doesn't come completely ready like a mobile home does. They have to send out a crew to finish fixing like the cracks and just minor things that happen from moving the home. So we were told by Franklin that we would be in contact with our trim out crew manager. Then we didn't hear from them for another.
Once again, I guess it's her story. She's going to tell it how she sees fit, but it's not really getting to the point, and I'll wrap it up right there. I do feel for her, but it sounds like a delay in communication. And here's the thing about customer service, right? If you cannot deliver, because things happen, you know, you may order something and a part has been delayed by the manufacturer, you know, just communicate with the customer. Sometimes too many delays and people don't want to hear any more explanations, right? I get that, but at least be ahead of it. That wouldn't be her excuse or her reason right now saying I heard nothing. Whenever you're in customer service, I'm not going to throw any companies under the bus. That's her experience. I'm just saying, learn to communicate, over communicate, let the client tell you, okay, we don't want to hear anymore. We trust you, rather than them being in limbo, not knowing what's going on. But as I mentioned, mobile homes come completely assembled. Modular homes come in pieces and it gets assembled on site. She's saying trim out crews. You got a lot of crews that got to come out to put the house in order and also get things connected. She said 10-day wait on utilities. We mentioned that sometimes you get delays with that, you know. So I don't know about 30 to 45 days, however much time they gave her. Just you want to err on the side of caution, and also if you are on the business side, communicate, because you set expectations. Also, the other side of this that we're not talking about is the financial side. If she was on a loan, you know, she said they sold a previous home, so maybe they had cash. She said we had cash to buy the 11 acres. I don't know if they had cash to build the house as well, right? But if, let's say they did have cash, but they still wanted to take a loan. Some people do that so they can have liquid cash for other things, investments and such, and then they can pay a monthly mortgage on the house. I see that a lot. If you're trying to build a house on a mortgage or a loan, you got like timelines. And if you don't get it done, they might extend your deadline once or twice. After that second extension, you start paying, you know, interest. And a lot more interest than on a regular loan. So something to think about. Time is of the essence with these things, especially if it's a loan. Well, thanks for watching. Very unfortunate story there. You just want to set realistic expectations. Yeah, take the builder's word for it, but also do some research and see, is this a one-off? You know, because regardless of how great you are in customer service, sometimes things may go wrong. But is it a pattern with this builder? You know, do some research, and also just look at national or local averages, see how long it takes for people to put things together. If everybody needs 90 days to 180 days, whatever, and some contractors telling you, oh, we can do it in 30, can they really do it in 30? Is it going to be a good job? You know, or are they just trying to sell you on something so you sign with them? Also, when people charge you, let's say $100,000 to get a job done, somebody comes and tell you, oh, I can do it in 20. Everybody else is bidding 100, and this one contractor said, oh, we can do it for 20. What kind of quality of work are they going to give you? Or are they just trying to undercut people and they can still do good service? You know, do your research. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll leave a link to this video in the description down below.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
So I have a squatter in my Airbnb, but my cleaner is an absolute G, and we're working together, and we're going to get him out before the end of the day. Basically, my cleaner shows up, 10 o'clock, it's time to clean, and the people are not leaving. Now, to preface this, she's been my cleaner for years, and she's seen this before. He gives him 20, 30 minutes. Eventually...
What I don't know right there, is it the original tenants that rented the place or some other people that broke in? You know, this is a short-term rental, and we mentioned in the previous video, short-term rentals kind of have a little bit more cost because after everybody moves out, you got to have a cleaner that goes from building to building, cleaning it up, getting it ready for the new tenant. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond. I'm a real estate agent in Maryland and the District of Columbia, and we're going to keep on reacting to these squatter story videos and see what we can glean from it. If you're looking to purchase a home in Maryland or DC, or looking to sell a home in Maryland or DC, my link will be in the description down below. Just go to my website and book a 15-minute consultation for free. All right, without further ado, let's get started.
So I have a squatter in my Airbnb, but my cleaner is an absolute G, and we're working together, and we're going to get him out before the end of the day. Basically, my cleaner shows up, 10 o'clock, it's time to clean, and the people are not leaving. Now, to preface this, she's been my cleaner for years, and she's seen this before. He gives him 20, 30 minutes. Eventually...
What I don't know right there, is it the original tenants that rented the place or some other people that broke in? You know, this is a short-term rental, and we mentioned in the previous video, short-term rentals kind of have a little bit more cost because after everybody moves out, you got to have a cleaner that goes from building to building, cleaning it up, getting it ready for the new tenant. So I don't know right now if this tenant, this squatter, is somebody that rented it before and just wanted to extend their stay, or maybe a friend, a guest at a party in that location or whatever that knew it was vacant, or just somebody random knowing this is an Airbnb and it's empty and let's go get in there. Let's see.
Without my direction, goes and knocks, which she wanted to do. And they came to the door and they're like, hey, we're staying. She looks very innocent, and she is, but you know, she has some fiery side to her. And they're just like, hey, don't tell the host, like she was on their team. We're gonna stay and like never leave. She played along, texted me on the side, and was like, okay, like, let me just clean up the deck for you, all this, this, and this. I'll even clean the inside. They were weary on that. She started to clean the deck. She's like, hey, I'll come back in a couple hours, like, clean the inside.
So here's the thing, right? It's funny, we did a reaction to a HOA story where a lady wanted to go dissolve the HOA, but pretty much posted it on the internet. Let it be known to other neighbors that, okay, this HOA is a pain in the neck. I'm going to be a board member and dissolve the HOA. And obviously the HOA wrote her a letter saying, if those are your intentions, it's not in the best interest of the board or the community for you to be part of the board. So here's what I say. Once again, it's somebody just showing their hand. I'm totally against just freeloading, but why would they tell the cleaner that they intend on staying and don't tell the host? Just showing your hand, it makes no sense. Absolutely. Kudos to the cleaner, but sometimes you put yourself at risk when you go trying to confront these people. You know, I would always recommend law enforcement. You know, that's what I would recommend. Confronting people, even though you're right, sometimes can always go bad. You know, we've seen cases in the extreme. There's one right now going viral that's in the news. A mother came home and her teenage daughter had somebody in the 20s, young teenage daughter had somebody in the 20s there, and she shot the person. Now she's arrested. That's an extreme case, but it's in the news right now as we speak. And even though you may be right, or you think you may be right, you can't just necessarily take the law into your own hands. That's all I'm saying. So be very careful. That's why even with shoplifters, you know, there's this thing that people say, why don't you just rough them up or arrest them? Things can escalate. Things can escalate, you know. So I always err on the side of caution to hand it over to the law enforcement. That's why you pay your taxes, right? Let's go.
So she's heading back in an hour. Like I said, she wants to do this. She's going to get them to leave when they go out for dinner, ideally, because she said it didn't look like they had food inside, and then switch all the codes. They haven't been there long enough to, you know, determine residency. That's also not a thing in this state. And she's just going to move their bags to the end of the driveway, which is technically the public road here, and that is all allowed. And she knows she is a...
Once again, I recommend call law enforcement. That is very slick, very smart. For short-term rentals, it can be tricky, right? I see if you know who's in the building, you can maybe sit outside in the parking lot and just when they leave, you go and switch the codes. I get that. But once again, when you think you're right, and let's say they come back, things escalate, even though you're right, you taking the law into your own hands can really get things going. And one thing he said there, they haven't stayed long enough to establish residency. So in some states, as we mentioned in the last video, once somebody moves in, it's kind of hard to get them out. But he said in that state, it's not a thing there. Some states don't put up with squatters. You call the police, they get them out of there. So if he's in that kind of state already, he shouldn't let the cleaner put herself or himself in that situation. I just don't like the idea of confronting the criminals or whatever on your own. Not because you can't, it's just what happens after that. Let's say, hey, you're with your family, somebody crosses the line, then there are things you, as a man, you got to put yourself on the line for. There are just things, you know, let's say I'm going to a showing and I go down in the basement and something is there that shouldn't be there, or somebody's there and they want to attack me or my client. In the moment, yes, you got to be able to defend yourself. There are some cases where they, you know, train agents on just being prepared, especially if you're a lady going down in these basements with somebody. At least text somebody in your office, let them know where you're going to do a showing in case anything happens, because you got bad characters out there. So I'll say if you get hit with the unexpected, yes, be prepared. But if you already know the situation, I totally advise against that. I would always say hand it over to law enforcement. I know sometimes, especially even in this state, Maryland, DC, they lean a little bit more towards tenant rights, just is what it is. And it sometimes become harder as a landlord to get a squatter out, but I still err on the side of caution. As they always say in retail, that money is insured, your life isn't, you know. So it's very unfortunate, but I don't recommend people putting themselves in the line of danger, you know. All right, well, I'll wrap this one up, and thanks for watching.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
And we have stayed on top of everything that they've asked us to do. We had to wait, I think, 10 days for Encore to come hook up electric. That was the longest wait on our side. Then there were several weeks with no contact from Pratt, no contact from Franklin, no contact from anybody. From our contractor, just had no idea what was going on, just left in the dark. We would send emails, we would make phone calls, no one would respond to us. And so we didn't know where we were at in the process. We could just drive by and see the house. We finally get a phone call from Franklin saying that our trim out crew, if you're not familiar with modulars, it doesn't come completely ready like a mobile home does. They have to send out a crew to finish fixing like the cracks and just minor things that happen from moving the home. So we were told by Franklin that we would be in contact with our trim out crew manager. Then we didn't hear from them for another...
Once again, I guess it's her story. She's going to tell it how she sees fit, but it's not really getting to the point. And I'll wrap it up right there. I do feel for her, but it sounds like a delay in communication. And here's the thing about customer service, right? If you cannot deliver, because things happen, you know, you may order something and a part has been delayed by the manufacturer. You know, just communicate with the customer. Sometimes too many delays and people don't want to hear any more explanations, right? I get that, but at least be ahead of it. That wouldn't be her excuse or her reason right now saying I heard nothing. Whenever you're in customer service, I'm not going to throw any companies under the bus. That's her experience. I'm just saying, learn to communicate, over communicate, let the client tell you, okay, we don't want to hear anymore, we trust you, rather than them being in limbo, not knowing what's going on. But as I mentioned, mobile homes come completely assembled. Modular homes come in pieces and it gets assembled on site. She's saying trim out crews. You got a lot of crews that got to come out to put the house in order and also get things connected. She said 10-day wait on utilities. We mentioned that sometimes you get delays with that, you know. So I don't know about 30 to 45 days, however much time they gave her. Just you want to err on the side of caution. And also, if you are on the business side, communicate, because you set expectations. Also, the other side of this that we're not talking about is the financial side. If she was on a loan, you know, she said they sold a previous home, so maybe they had cash. She said we had cash to buy the 11 acres. I don't know if they had cash to build the house as well, right? But if, let's say they did have cash, but they still wanted to take a loan. Some people do that so they can have liquid cash for other things, investments and such, and then they can pay a monthly mortgage on the house. I see that a lot. If you're trying to build a house on a mortgage or a loan, you got like timelines. And if you don't get it done, they might extend your deadline once or twice. After that second extension, you start paying, you know, interest. And a lot more interest than on a regular loan. So something to think about. Time is of the essence with these things, especially if it's a loan. Well, thanks for watching. Very unfortunate story there. You just want to set realistic expectations. Yeah, take the builder's word for it, but also do some research and see, is this a one-off? You know, because regardless of how great you are in customer service, sometimes things may go wrong. But is it a pattern with this builder? You know, do some research, and also just look at national or local averages, see how long it takes for people to put things together. If everybody needs 90 days to 180 days, whatever, and some contractors telling you, oh, we can do it in 30, can they really do it in 30? Is it going to be a good job? You know, or are they just trying to sell you on something so you sign with them? Also, when people charge you, let's say $100,000 to get a job done, somebody comes and tell you, oh, I can do it in 20. Everybody else is bidding 100, and this one contractor said, oh, we can do it for 20. What kind of quality of work are they going to give you? Or are they just trying to undercut people and they can still do good service? You know, do your research. All right.
Story time about someone breaking into my apartment in New York City. This is a PSA / I'm wondering if this has happened to anyone else. When I spoke to the police, they said that this is something that has been happening regularly. Basically, I had someone go to my door while I am out of town saying that they have a sublease to this apartment and this number, and that they were instructed for, if they couldn't get in touch with the super of the building, to call a locksmith and drill into the door and change the lock. So they did that. They brought a locksmith.
Yeah, there's a lot of scamming going on, unfortunately. And how does this pertain to real estate? We're talking about squatters, right? There was just one where the property was vacant, a very beautiful mansion in the Bethesda area, which is upclass. Somebody moved in there with a U-Haul, It's just the neighbors noticed these people are not supposed to be here, and then getting them out was a headache. Then come to find out, they're repeat offenders. You know, they find vacant houses and then they move in. So as real estate agents or as a seller, what I always recommend is constantly check. You know, as an agent, sometimes agents get the listing, they put the sign on the door and they barely go there. A good agent should be checking periodically. Also, if possible, sometimes it's hard to constantly go there if you're getting a lot of showings. But let's say prior to a showing, they can go in there, cut on all the lights, cut on the AC or the heat, depending on what time of the year. And after the showing, they cut it off. But it's always best to at least have eyes in there, because people can move in, vandalize, steal, or just squat, you know, and it becomes a problem. So I always advise sellers, you know, try to get an agent that's always going to be there checking periodically, because once people see that a house has been vacant for a while, it becomes a problem. I remember I was showing this listing in a new development. So it just got built, but most of the houses had been sold at this point. One house hadn't been sold, and as we were walking around, it just happened to be that the client's father or family member has a house in that community, so they were trying to buy a house in that community as well to get close to family. But that family member now knows that these teenagers in the neighborhood break into these vacants and throw parties. And so he walked around, and lo and behold, the screens in the back had been ripped so they can prop open the windows. At least they tried to, but this was a new construction where there was a latch from the inside that stops the window from being lifted up. So these are just things you can think about doing to prevent people from coming into your house, because they ripped the screens in the back. And if those latches weren't there holding the window from being lifted up from the inside, those latches got to get moved from the inside. If they weren't there, those kids would have probably thrown a party in that very nice new construction.
As far as why the locksmith didn't have to ask for any sort of proof that they lived there is very interesting. But they broke in. My neighbor, thank God for her, was there and intervened, not really knowing, not believing the kind of potential squatter's story that she was supposedly being scammed and she had sold someone and she had a sublease for this apartment. And so my neighbor very graciously let them go sit into her apartment while they called the police. And of course, this girl's story who called the locksmith and broke in did not add up at all. She could not show proof that she was even scammed or that she sent someone money. So what we think happened is that it was a squatter and they were...
Yeah.
Right, but who owns the house? Like, well, I own the house. I mean, like, my name's on it. Right, but like, who owns the house? I own the house. I've paid the mortgage on it by myself ever since Mom died for the last like 6 years. I've paid the mortgage. I own the house. Anyway, she did that so many times that I was just very ashamed, and I don't even know why. She made me feel really bad. Then she was frustrated because I didn't have the exact property lines, and she wants the well that's on my grandma's property. And she was like, so where's the property line? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, this is my grandmother's my next door neighbor. We take care of her yard and everything. Like, I really couldn't tell you exactly where it is. This is where I think it is. So you have the well? No, we don't have the well. But then the realtor pulled up the property lines on his little app thingy, and it looked like maybe we did. And I was like, I'm pretty sure we don't, because the lady we bought this house from way back when, like, that wasn't her well then. It was my grandparents. So she's mad about that. And then she was frustrated that I called Dad to ask.
So once again, if you have a real estate agent, they may not have answers to that. I've been at showings where people have asked me for property lines, and if they're not like visible with the state markings there, but sometimes these markers may have been moved. I can point out to what I see as far as, okay, there go a landmark right there, a boundary marker right there, but please let me pull up some county records. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond. I'm a local real estate agent in DC and Maryland. Today we're going to react to a video right here, which has to do with home sellers and some of the stories. Without further ado, let's jump right in.
By the end of next month, I am moving from Arkansas to Maryland, and that means that I have to sell my house. It officially went on the market this morning, and I had my very first showing before work today. So I was already really hesitant because I knew that the people coming in were part of the Christian Motorcyclist Association. It's exactly what it sounds like, a big group of Christians that ride motorcycles.
So, moving from Arkansas to Maryland, which I knew prior to. Hopefully she had a good real estate agent while she moved to Maryland. So this sounds like one of those specific groups. I'll tell you this much: when it comes to selling a house, you want to make it appeal to the masses. You know, you want to make your house appeal to the masses because you just, I want it to go to a certain type of family. I got a client who doesn't want to sell his house to investors, and it's slowing the process down. He only wants to sell it to families. I get the sentiment of, I want to keep this neighborhood in a family's hand rather than an investor. But that's just an example. Some people will go on a religious thing, a racial thing. You do have fair housing laws you need to watch out for. But when you sell a house, make sure you're appealing to the masses with your furniture, your ads. It just makes it sell quicker. Anyway, let's keep going.
When I was little, they were really cool people. They have aged to be less cool. Anyway, so I'm already nervous. I worked last night. I didn't go to sleep till like 3 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 6. I had to go to work at 10. I am on edge. I also just realized I have a funeral home written on my hand. So, you know I'm not lying about being a nurse. Anyway, they roll up to the house. At one point, I offhandedly mentioned, oh, this is my dad's room. And from that point on, the woman was obsessed with, so who's selling the house? Well, I mean, I'm doing all of the legwork, but technically it's my father and I.
This comes down to the whole idea of getting an agent, you know. If she had an agent, she would have insulated herself from all of that. I understand you want to do all the legwork, you want to save yourself some money, but now you're there, these people are going to rub you off the wrong way, you didn't get any sleep, you got to show the house. That's what an agent is for. For some people that don't understand the benefit of a real estate agent, this is an example of it. Not too bad of an example, but it's still an example, right? Like, if you're a professional, you're working all the time. The agent, that's their job. They can show your house when you're tired, when you are at work, you know. But if you have to go to work and you're not going to be there to show the property, you know. And also, the agent can just deflect those questions because, out of confidentiality, I can't speak to whose house it is. But now you're the owner, and then you're dealing with a buyer directly. And some of these buyers, the same way they may rub you off the wrong way as sellers, you may also rub them off the wrong way. They may not want to move into your house after they see you. So an agent is just that buffer. One, if you're a professional, like she said, she's a nurse. If she has to go to work and somebody wants to see a property, that slows down the process. But if you have an agent, they can see it at all times. Then now she's kind of already butting heads with a buyer. You don't even have to deal with them. Let's go.
Right, but who owns the house? I own the house. I mean, my name's on it. Right, but who owns the house? I own the house. I've paid the mortgage on it by myself ever since Mom died for the last 6 years. I've paid the mortgage. I own the house. Anyway, she did that so many times that I was just very ashamed, and I don't even know why. She made me feel really bad. Then she was frustrated because I didn't have the exact property lines, and she wants the well that's on my grandma's property. And she was like, so where's the property line? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, this is my grandmother's my next door neighbor. We take care of her yard and everything. Like, I really couldn't tell you exactly where it is. This is where I think it is. So you have the well? No, we don't have the well. But then the realtor pulled up the property lines on his little app thingy, and it looked like maybe we did. And I was like, I'm pretty sure we don't, because the lady we bought this house from way back when, like that wasn't her well then. It was my grandparents. So she's mad about that. And then she was frustrated that I called Dad to ask.
So once again, if you have a real estate agent, they may not have answers to that. I've been at showings where people have asked me for property lines, and if they're not like visible with the state markings there, but sometimes these markers may have been moved. I can point out to what I see as far as, okay, there go a landmark right there, a boundary marker right there, but please let me pull up some county records. And you can always go to the county or show them. You as an agent can be a resource to a better resource. You as the seller don't have to put yourself in that position. Sometimes it really works well when the seller's there and they have all this knowledge about the house. Like, for instance, where's the property line? Oh, it's right here. That's my grandma's well, as she's giving an example. Things the agent may not know. If you have that information, seems really good. If you don't, and she's already skeptical as to, are you trying to sell your father's house and you're not the owner? Whatever her skepticism may be, and now she's asking a question that you can't answer, it may just push her off a little bit more. And it may also rub you off the wrong way to even go under contract with this seller. And now if you do go under contract with them, how willing are y'all going to be able to be to one another to compromise on little things like, okay, this door need to be fixed by the per the appraiser or the lender. You may not want to move an inch just because the way they rubbed you off the wrong way, and vice versa. They may not want to go more as far as on asking to close the house, you know, just little things, because, or give an extension, whatever it may be, just because you guys already butted heads. So it's better, not to say it's always smooth selling, but let's say an agent was there, you ask property lines. Me personally, if I know, I can show you some of the markers on the ground, and I'll say, hey, this is the county atlas where you can go and get that information. Once upon a time, you could just look it up on the website, but now you just call this number right here. They'll have it mailed out to you, you know, and it's pretty fast, maybe in a week or so you can actually see what the county says. We'll wrap this one right here. I think it does go on for a little bit more, but what I'll say is get a real estate agent if possible. I understand trying to save some money, but as a nurse, you got a job, you're moving out of town. Yeah, I get the money aspect, but sometimes, believe it or not, people that sell houses with agents end up netting more than those that don't. As crazy as it may seem, it's kind of like backwards for those that don't understand it. You may think, okay, I'm paying agent fees, I'm gonna save money if I don't use them. It's about the pricing. Most of the time, people go off the websites, Zillow's, Redfin, and they price their home that way, where as agents can do a deeper dive and get you apples for apples and tell you, okay, your neighbor's house sold for $400,000, but it's a Cape Cod, for instance. Yours is a Rambler. Different houses, you know. They go for more. Cape Cods may cost this. Ramblers may go for this. Check out this Rambler and how much it sold for. They can give you a more detailed apples for apples comp. There are a lot of apps that do that now, but it just still is the fact that I think it's about 40% of people that go with agents net a little bit more than those that don't. So, all right, don't be penny wise, pound foolish. Seek professional advice. Always don't speculate on landmarks. Always go to county records. All right. For my agents out there, you be the resource to a better resource. Thanks for watching. If you're looking to move to Maryland like this lady is, visit my website, book a 15-minute free consultation. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
You guys have been asking me for an update on this situation, and I took my association to small claims court for $20,000. That is the max that my county will allow me to sue them for, and they charged me for an assessment of $20,000.
Wow. Well, seems like this has gone far, and she took the homeowners association to small claims court for $22,000 because of the limit that the court would allow her to sue the association for. Let's see why she decided to go down that route.
$2,000, so that means I guess I'll have to eat like $2,200 or whatever. That's fine. It's not fine, but it's fine for now. And I feel like the association is already trying to retaliate against me because, as you guys know, I had plans on joining the board. At our next meeting is where we kind of like vote and everything. That's also next month in June. I had plans on joining the board and then kind of like dissolving the association as a whole once I get on board. A lot of homeowners are interested in that. Well, this meeting minutes came out and these are on my heels. Let me show y'all. These motherfuckers.
Here's a nugget in life, right? Sometimes you keep your hand close. This is or has nothing to do with real estate per se, but in life, it does have some things to do with real estate, even if you're negotiating. But in life, you keep your hand close. You know, keep your hand close. Why would you go on social media saying you're trying to tear down the board and then try to become a member of the board? One, you got to know HOAs, as much as they keep a neighborhood looking a certain way, they do make some money. It's not a non-profit organization. There's some people that work for that HOA that's how they pay their bills. You do have the neighborhood that meets and they vote for who's gonna be the HOA